Hello, everyone, and welcome to Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, since the Konaté agreement has been announced in terms of his departure, as we all know, he will be joining Real Madrid, the media outlets have gone a little bit quiet in terms of his replacements because we haven't been linked with any centre backs. So, what does that mean? Does that mean that we are content with the centre backs that we have, or have we maybe agreed a deal in place for another signing besides Jacquet? Well, at the minute, it's unclear, but what is clear is that Liverpool have announced their new head coach in Andoni Iraola, who was officially unveiled earlier today to the world. So we'll talk about his first interview and see what he had to say about his new role. But before we do, I'd like to present 10 potential centre backs that could be regarded as an option to replace Konate. So before we begin, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Now, let's start with the first option or the first candidate to replace Ibu Konate, and that is Nico Schlotterbeck. So Nico Schlotterbeck, I'm sure you guys will be aware, he is a 26-year-old German centre back who plays for Dortmund. In terms of his profile, he is a left-sided centre back, can play left back if required. Of course, naturally left-footed. His key asset is that he is a ball-playing defender, solid as a rock. 6'4", 6'5", so an imposing figure in the back line, and chips in terms of the goals and assists as well. So this season, or should I say, last season, he managed to make 37 appearances, 5 goals and 2 assists. So he's definitely someone that ticks the boxes. Of course, if we were to sign him, that would mean that Van Dijk will have to switch over to right side of centre back, which for me is not really a huge deal. Van Dijk has said previously in interviews that that is the role that he played when he first started his career. It's only when he moved over to Southampton where he played it a bit more left sided. So for me, that shouldn't be something we should be fixated on in terms of not moving Van Dijk, to the right side if we sign a left-footed centre back. So for me, Schlotterbeck would be top of the shortlist in terms of the profile. Apparently, he has a release clause of around £50 million that can be triggered this summer. So I think he could be an outstanding addition to our squad if we were to pay that release clause. So only time will tell if Schlotterbeck is a genuine target. Another player who I'm sure will be familiar with is Illia Zabarnyi. Now he is 23 years of age, currently plays for PSG. In terms of his profile, he's a right-footed centre back, solid defender, 6'3". I thought he was a lot taller. To be fair, when I saw him play in the Champions League final, he looked like an absolute giant. So I'm a bit surprised in terms of the height that's been recorded on his Wikipedia page. But in terms of his appearances, made 37 appearances last season, 1 goal, 0 assists. In terms of what he brings to the table, he is a solid centre back. Not someone that gets pushed out the way, so that will mean that he's going to be a physical and imposing figure in the back line. But in terms of other sort of areas about him, former Bournemouth player, so he has that connection with the coach in Andoni Iraola. He's Premier League proven, and I also felt like in the last couple of years, especially when Hosen was there, I feel like he was the one that actually looked like the better defender, or he made him look better than he probably was, if I'm being honest with you. I think he kind of was a bit under the radar or was not appreciated as much. The move to PSG hasn't quite worked out for him, although he's made a sufficient amount of games in the league. He's played 28 times, so he has been involved in the first team mix, but maybe not regarded as the first choice centre back in their lineup. So he could be a serious option for us. Apparently, we have made an inquiry in the last couple of days. So let's see if there's any truth to the rumor. I genuinely believe that if we were to sign Zabarnyi, I think he's actually an upgrade on Konate. So he could be an interesting signing for us. Another player is Marco Senesi, just turned 29 last month, currently a free agent as he's left Bournemouth. Has been strongly linked with a move to Tottenham, although nothing has been officially announced in terms of his profile. Centre back, a left-footed centre-back as well, and he's a ball-playing defender, great passing range. This season, he's registered 5 assists to his name. So I feel like this could be a very smart signing if he hasn't signed a new contract with Tottenham Hotspurs. Of course, he has played with under Iraola, I should say, um, and with him being a left-footed ball-playing centre-back, he provides a different dimension and gives us a different balance in our team. Premier League proven, which of course is a big plus point. So I feel like he should be seriously considered. There's nothing to lose here. I know he's 29 years of age, so he might not be the exact profile under the FSG model in terms of signing younger players and not signing, experienced players at the age of 29, because that's the age that we tend to sell players. But I truly believe in this department, we need experience in the back line. If you look at our current squad, we've got Van Dijk, who's, of course, 33, 34 years of age. You've got Joe Gomez, who's about 32, I believe. And then you've got Jacques, who's 21. You've got Leon, who's 19, 20 years of age. So, out of the 4 defenders there, 2 of them are pretty much teenagers or under 21. So that's something we have to consider. We can't just sign another young defender, in my opinion. So I feel like it might be worth going through the route of adding an experienced defender to the squad and someone that will actually be a starter alongside Van Dijk. So Senesi could fit that profile in, and I think he could transition into the first team right away as he knows what to expect in terms of Iraola ball. Like, he knows how to play that because he's been managed under the coach for 2 or 3 years. So he knows exactly what to expect. So he's pretty much ready made to slot into the first team. So I feel like Senesi would be a very smart signing uh, if Liverpool can hijack it, if there is a deal in place with Tottenham. So something to look forward to, I would say, in the next few weeks, as it hasn't been officially announced where he will be moving to. Another player that we linked with continuously over the months is Mickey van der Ven, 25 years of age, of course, plays for Tottenham. A centre back that can also play left back. In terms of his profile, very quick, and I'm sure you guys will be aware. He scored an amazing solo goal last year for Tottenham in the Champions League. This year, he registered 7 goals, 1 assist in 45 appearances. Solid option, but he would cost an arm and a leg, as Tottenham won't want to part ways with him. And if they do, they'll probably add an inflation price to his tag. Um, but apart from the financial side of the deal, he is quite injury prone. So that would be a huge concern, a big risk if we were to pursue him. Ability wise, he could be an interesting option. I don't think he's technically the best, but I do believe he has some strong skill sets that can make him a great addition to the squad. But he can also form a great partnership with Van Dijk, who has actually played alongside with for the Dutch national team. So maybe one to consider, but I think the transfer fee will be quite high, which I don't think we should splash in terms of most of our budget. I feel like we have other areas to strengthen. So the centre back position, I can't spend too much money on, in my opinion. But that's the way I'm looking at it. To be fair, another player that's had a great season or a great couple of seasons is Maxence Lacroix, 26 years of age. Of course, plays for Crystal Palace, right footed centre back, solid defender, uh, decent in the air, good on the ball, and can play as a left side or right side centre back. So it doesn't matter who he partners with in the middle of the defense. This season, 55 appearances, 3 goals, 3 assists. So pretty much an ever-present defender in the Crystal Palace team. Apparently, I read some rumors a couple of weeks ago that he's agreed the transfer this season, but we have no idea where he's moving to. Apparently, a deal has been agreed in the region of 40 million. You know, it's rumors at this stage because nothing's been made official. But could it be Liverpool? You can't completely rule it out because, of course, the club would have known that Konaté was on the verge of leaving, so maybe they had already decided that Lacroix is the replacement. I'm not too sure at this stage. But if the rumor is false that he hasn't agreed to move, then I think Liverpool should definitely look towards signing Lacroix, and I think he would be a great addition to the squad. He's very quick forward defender, may not be as dominant in the air as Van Dijk, but then again, who is? So for me, one to watch in terms of where he moves to, as it looks like he will be leaving Crystal Palace this summer. Another player is Giorgio Scalvini, 22 years of age. He is an Italian international. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing him in the World Cup. Right for his centre back, solid defender, very good reader of the game despite his young age. In terms of this season, he's made 30 appearances, 3 goals, and 1 assist to his name. Currently being linked with a move to Newcastle. So definite interest from the Premier League. He suffered a big injury a couple of years ago, but it looks like he's back in form again. Only concern regarding Scalvini would be his pace, as he's not the quickest. So he could potentially struggle with the intensity of the league. But he's a very good reader of the game. He finds himself in great defensive positions, so he can kind of make up for the lack of pace. In terms of ability wise, I think he's a future star, especially in Italian football. But I'm not convinced, or I'm not 100% sure if he's suited for Premier League football, but only time will tell. Now, this link will surprise many as Hoyson just joined Real Madrid last summer, but things haven't gone to plan. So much so, he's not actually been included or selected for the Spain World Cup squad. So a move away from Real Madrid could be on the cards in terms of his profile. 21 years of age, right for his centre back. From what we've seen in terms of his style of play at Bournemouth, especially silky on the ball, both footed, good read of the game, and someone that can deal with physical battles. Last season, made 40 appearances, 2 goals and 2 assists. So we know what he's about. We saw, how he performed for Irola at Bournemouth, and we were very strongly linked with him. In fact, I believe we were very close to signing him last summer, but he opted to join Real Madrid instead. So the big question is, should we even consider making a bid? Now, if you ask me, I'm going to be petty on this one. So for me, no, I don't think we should. He can rot in Madrid as he made his choice last year. But to look on the other side, the advantages of making a move for Hussein would be that he'll be reunited with his former coach in Irola, who will get the best out of him. So I'll let the gaffer decide on this one. But if you ask me, I'm going to be petty and say no, don't place a bid on him because he made his decision last year. Now, this defender is always mentioned in every transfer show on a yearly basis because he is the dream centre back signing for most of us, and that is Alessandro Bastoni. In terms of his profile, 27 years of age, of course, plays for Inter Milan, left-footed centre back slash left back, and he can also play that role. In terms of what he brings to the table, for me, he's one of the best left side centre backs in the world. Last season, 40 appearances, 2 goals and 6 assists. At the minute, it looks like he's strongly linked with a move to Barcelona, one that has been looming around for quite some time. Maybe it will happen this summer. But in terms of how he presents himself as a player, quality defender, amazing on the ball, great ball carrier. But I would have concerns about him in the Premier League. He doesn't normally play in a back four. He's predominantly playing in a back three throughout his career, whether it's for the national team or for Inter Milan. Um, and when he plays in a back three, he has a lot more freedom on the ball. Is able to roam a bit more in the wider areas. So I'm not sure if he would adapt to playing in a back four in the Premier League, as there is no proof to suggest that he could. But because of his quality, I'm expecting to say that good players always find a way. So you expect him to do well if he was presented the position to play in a two-man defense in a back four. Now, if he was available, I think he would cost quite a bit of money, especially with it being a Premier League interest. I think the fee would be upwards of 60, 70 million pounds, which is quite a lot for a centre back. And we do have other areas to address. So looking at this, which will be a bit of a surprise to everyone, I think there may be better and cheaper options out there, as Bastoni would still be a gamble, which is as silly as that sounds, because he's been one of my players or one of my favorite players over the years, and someone that I've been vouching for every summer for Liverpool to sign. But I feel like just because he's a great player doesn't mean he's the right fit for Liverpool. So that's why I feel like maybe we could look elsewhere and try and find a bit more of a steady Eddie type of side, or someone that is a bit more suited to the way we play in the Premier League. So that would be my take on that. Another player is Costello Lukeba. He is 23 years of age, plays for Red Bull Leipzig, a centre back that can also play left back, being left footed. He is a great all round defender, very good on the ball, defensively sound. 29 appearances this season, a goal and assist to his name. I believe a few months ago he confirmed that he will be leaving Red Bull Leipzig at the end of the season. So he could be available for around 40 to 50 million pounds. In terms of what he brings to the table, I really like him. I think he's a very talented player, very quick on the ball, but very smart in terms of his ball carrying, but also his distribution. He knows when to pick the right pass and what type of pass to produce as well. Not the tallest of defenders, as I believe he's around 6 foot. Uh, but then again, that was the concern that we all had regarding Mark Gay, and look what he's doing at Man City. So it's not really about the height. For me, it's about, can you defend in the Premier League? That's the most important question to ask when it comes to player recruitment. So for me, he's an interesting profile. It seems like we could be on the phone with Red Bull Leipzig quite a bit this season, as we're linked to a number of their players. So at this stage, we might as well put them on speed dial and see what we can do in terms of mustering up a few deals with the German side. And the final player is Ronald Aroja. Now, he is 27 years of age. Of course, he plays for Barcelona. I believe he's their captain as well. Solid defender, dominant in the air, and a good passer of the ball as well. This season, 30 appearances, 4 goals, 0 assists. He's just been called up for the Uruguayan World Cup squad, so that's a huge moment there for him. Um, there were rumors that Barcelona were thinking of selling him. Those stories have seemed to have slowed down in the last few weeks. So I'm not sure if they still see him as a viable member, or they might want to cash in on him. It's very unclear at this stage. But what I do know is he's a top defender, and if he is available, he could be someone that we could look to sign, as I feel like he has the skill sets to be Van Dijk's long-term successor. That's the kind of ratings I give for this player. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed that sort of we talk in terms of 10 potential sentiments that we can look towards, because I truly believe we need to replace Konaté. If you look at our current squad, we've got Van Dijk, Joe Gomez, Jacquet, and Leone. For me, that's not enough. If you look at Joe Gomez, he is an experienced defender, but his injury record would suggest that he can't be relied upon. So therefore, I would label Joe Gomez as a fifth choice centre back, and then the goal is to try and recruit a second choice centre back that starts alongside Van Dijk, and then you have Jacquet and you have Leone competing for a spot. Or if Liverpool want to have a different approach, they could promote one of their young centre backs. So the Austrian centre back that we signed in January in Duque, he could come in and be fifth choice. And then maybe Jack Kay is the one that actually starts alongside Van Dijk, and then you've got Leone and you've got Joe Gomez, and then Nduque as the backup. I feel like the smart thing to do would be to sign a experienced defender. That is the way I would look at it. So we had a few options earlier in the show. So I presented Senesi, who I really like the look of. I think that would be a smart signing. But at this stage, it looks like he could be headed towards Tottenham. So if that is the case, for me, the verdict is that Nico Schlotterbeck should be the defender that we sign this summer to replace Ibu Konate. I believe he has the credentials to form a formidable partnership with Van Dijk, but also if and when Van Dijk decides to leave Liverpool, I think Nico Schlotterbeck is the perfect long-term successor to Van Dijk in the team. He's only 25 years of age, got so many years to showcase his ability and make an impression at Liverpool if he was to sign for us this summer. So for me, Schlotterbeck should be our number one target. And at 50 million pounds, it might sound like a big chunk of money, but in this market, I don't feel like that is a heavy price for a player of his quality. So feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. Is Schlotterbeck the right fit for us, or do you have another player in mind? Maybe I've not mentioned that player, and you'd like to fill us in and let us know who you think would be the right defender to join Liverpool this summer in order to replace Konaté, but also form a partnership with Van Dijk. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the chat. But we have to talk about the breaking news today. It was made official that Andoni Iraola is now the official Liverpool head coach. Now, the first video I saw was the one that they posted on social media, and what he said in that video won me over straight away. So he said, quote by quote, "For me, football is about emotions, the inner energy. You need it as a player, you need it as a supporter, you need it as a coach. At the beginning, when you arrive, you need to earn the right also to belong. I want to become one of more of you, so I can be a part. I understand it's also a privilege, but also a big responsibility. I understand what is expected. I'm ready for the challenge." So those are very positive words in terms of what he had to say. But there were a few things that I watched in the interview that I feel like, this guy just gets it completely. He understands what the job is in hand, and he knows what to to do for us next season. One of the things he said that, look, a lot of senior players are going to the World Cup, but it also means that he gets a chance to work with young players at the start of preseason, which is a great quote and such a motivational thing to say for the young and up and coming players in the under 21s or even in the youth academy. It gives them the clean slate to really showcase their ability and make an impression towards the coach. So I'm sure that'll be music to Bowles there, who of course is very much high in terms of giving young players a chance. But that's a great sort of statement to present, and that showcases that he is going to give young players a chance, which is exactly what you want to hear at Liverpool Football Club. And then he's also said a few things, and I'm just going to use words that he's used throughout the interview. He used keywords like identity, intensity, aggressiveness, organization, things that we may have lacked or we didn't have those fundamentals last season. So he's someone that's going to be very much strong in terms of relaying this kind of approach to our game. So for me, that is already a positive to hear. He also expressed that Liverpool gives them a chance to work with top players, and top players give you the chance to win titles. So he knows what is at stake. He knows what to expect. In terms of what we want as a fan base. So he knows he's got a big mission ahead in terms of achieving some silverware and also progressing as a team. And look, how can you not be excited by this appointment? Every signing in football is a risk, whether it's a player or whether it's a coach. And I know some fans have reservations in terms of him not being able to manage or hasn't managed a team 2-3 times a week. He hasn't managed in Europe. But look, I truly believe Irola is the best possible fit for us in terms of his philosophy, but also as a character, as a person. I feel like he understands the club. He knows what to expect. He's come from the best country where it's literally the same kind of culture. They are very emotional, very passionate as a football fan base, and they live and breathe football there. So when you've got that kind of same culture at Liverpool, he's going to resonate with that really well. And I think as fans, we're going to have a connection with him immediately, which is going to be very very positive going forward. So for me, I'm really looking forward to preseason in terms of seeing all the players being given a chance to showcase their talents. The lone players that will be returning, like the Harvey Elliott's and those type of players, but also young and up and coming like your Joshua Abe, who's of course just signed a new contract. He'll get an opportunity to showcase his talent after agreeing his long-term future at the club. So it's going to be interesting in regards to that, but also I'm intrigued to see what type of players he'll bring in this summer. So yeah, really, really excited. And look, I feel like in terms of his personality, he comes across as very humble, but understands what lies ahead in terms of this opportunity. It's a big opportunity for him to really showcase his managerial credentials, and he knows what to expect. He knows the expectations are high. He knows that being former champions, we want to go back to those winning ways. And last season was not what we wanted to see as a club and as a fan base. So he knows there's a huge task ahead. But I'm sure he's looking forward to the challenge. I'm sure he's going to thrive under that pressure. So yeah, exciting times ahead. So yeah, really, really positive interview from Iraola. So hopefully we'll get to hear him say a few more words in the coming weeks, and then he can start doing preparations for preseason and maybe speak to Richard Hughes about adding some more players to the squad, which will be a nice way to start next season. Before we talk about some rumors that have been circling today, we'll go through the comments. And I see there's quite a few there, so yeah, I'll try and get them on the screen. Boss, big up Oz. When Irola said football is about emotion and passion, what do you think that tells us about the culture he wants to build at Liverpool? You've pretty much just said it there. He's going to present football the way we want to see it, which is with passion, with emotion. That is our identity as Liverpool Football Club. That is our DNA. So that is literally music to our ears. That is what we want to see because we lacked that passion, that emotion, that intensity in our game. So it's positive to hear those kind of words. Did anyone else notice how much he talked about earning respect rather than demanding it? What that say about his leadership style? Well, yeah, in terms of Arne Slot, he probably demanded respect, whereas that's not how it works. In football, it doesn't work like that in life, to be fair. You have to show respect to people around you, and that's how you earn respect. And that is what is probably a sign of a true leader. So for me, he might not be as charismatic as Jurgen Klopp because we keep doing that silly comparison. There's the many people that are charismatic like Jurgen Klopp, but he is his own man, and I feel like he's going to relay his personality to the squad, and I feel like he's going to get the best out of most of the players as well. So for me, that's an exciting part about his appointment altogether. What part of the interview gave you the most confidence about his appointment? As I mentioned previously, just some of the key words that he used, or the buzzwords, in terms of intensity, identity, aggressiveness, organization. That's what you want to hear from your coach because that is the way we want our football to be played. So for me, it's what I wanted to hear from the coach, and he pretty much hit every note that was expected. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what he brings to the table in the coming months and coming years as well. Hopefully, which answer from the interview revealed the most about his personality? Pretty much what I just said. In terms of his ideology of how to play the game and his connection with the fans, that he wants to be one of us. He's said that quite a bit in the interview. So it shows that he has that sort of that community approach where he wants everyone to be one, which is really important in order to build that connection with the fan base. So yeah, he knows what he's doing there. What was the biggest difference between Irala's interview and Slot? Oh, I can't remember Slot's interview. Even Slot's interview, he was saying, very positive things. Of course, that was the first impression we got. But of course, further down the line, those things didn't really match in terms of what we saw on the pitch. So I can't remember word for word what he said in those interviews. But yeah, I think even on Slot's interview, it did sound positive. I'm not going to be like, oh no, it sounded all negative because we were really excited about his appointment at the time. But Irola, I just feel like he understands what we need as a club. So for me, it's a very big positive. Was there a specific moment where you thought this guy gets what Liverpool is about? I feel like I'm repeating myself. Literally, those things that I've just mentioned in terms of the buzzwords. Um, he knows what we're about as a club. He knows that he's there on merit in terms of what he's produced at Real Vallecano and also what he did at Bournemouth. So he knows that his style of play is going to be a great fit at the club. Of course, it's good that Richard Hughes is there because that's the person that brought him to the Premier League, but that wasn't the reason why he joined. He joined because of Liverpool, and it's the club that what attracted him. So yeah, very, very positive in terms of his interview there. Did his interview win you over, or do you still need to see results on the pitch? I've been vouching for Iraola for weeks now. So for me, Iraola was first choice. Ever since Alonso was announced as Chelsea manager, I said to everyone on the show that for me, Iraola is number one choice. I feel like his style of play or his philosophy is exactly what we want at the club and is the closest thing to Jurgen Klopp's heavy metal football. So for me, I was probably 1 hour before the appointment, to be fair, because I did my research and I looked at the way Bournemouth play over the last 2, 3 years, and I thought, like, you know what, they actually played some of the best football, and I'd love to see that at Liverpool as well. So for me, it's not just about seeing the results on the pitch. Of course, that's going to be a huge part. Otherwise, this is all talk right now. But in terms of what he brings to the table, I'm hoping he sticks to his principles, which I believe he will. And I'm just intrigued in terms of how he sets the team up. What players he brings in, how he plays certain players within the squad. So, a lot of things to look forward to. So, yeah, for me, it's exciting times ahead. Mm. On a scale of 1 to 10, how impressed were you with Irola's first interview? Um, I'll give it a 10. I was very impressed. I don't think there was anything that I felt like he didn't mention this or he didn't mention that. Um, he said all the right things that I think us fans want to hear, but not also gaslighting us either. He didn't say anything that was like sort of exceeding our expectations. I think he kept it as humble as possible, but also sounded enthusiastic and positive as ever. So, yeah, very impressive with his interview there. Did anything in the interview suggest that Irola is willing to trust young players? Well, I just mentioned the quote. I said that he's excited to work with the young players during preseason whilst the senior players are at the World Cup. So that should be music to your ears, Bold, because that's something you've been vouching for. So it shows me that he's going to give young players a chance, which is great to hear. Tell me some youth players you expect to be involved in pre-season. It'll predominantly be the under 21 players, to be fair. So um, maybe you'll see Armin Pexi, the goalkeeper. Um, I'm expecting to see the new centre back we have, more Tala and Dai, the Senegalese one. I think he'll get some game time. You'll potentially get to see Callum Scanlon as well, maybe fighting for a left back position within the first team squad. Uh, we'll probably see your guy there in Welity Lucky. Um, who else would we see? Um, I'm trying to think of other names now. Kieran Morrison, who is of course just signed a new contract, so we'll probably see him. Jalen Downs, if he's still available. Will Wright, Cairo Figueroa. So just some of the players that we have seen pretty much close or within the squads last season. I feel like they'll be given a more of an opportunity to stake a claim or produce an impression on the new coach. So yeah, I think those are the type of players we'll see in preseason. Ozan, big up Ozan as always. He says the start of a new era. Ozzy, yes, it is a new start of an era. Um, let's hope it's a trophy laden, successful, and makes us feel proud of the club. I'm positive. I'm not going to say that we're going to win all of these titles here and there. I'll probably have that sort of tone of voice once we make some signings, so I know what the bigger picture looks like, what the squad will be presented when we start next season. So that's when I'll give you my real take in terms of where I see us finishing next season. But I'm looking forward to seeing heavy metal football game. I'm excited to see high energy and progressive football being played at Liverpool. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to next season. Instead of dreading getting sleep on watching us, listen, last season was a tough watch, as you'll know. Um, and yeah, there were games I'm thinking, oh, gotta do a watch along. Like I felt that I'm not gonna lie. And there were times where I was dozing off during watch alongs, and it wasn't even like late night matches. It was 3 o'clock kickoffs or even midday kickoffs, and I'm dozing off even though I had been awake all day or all morning. So it wasn't like I was lacking sleep or anything like that. So yeah, it was definitely a ball fest at times. So I'm happy that we won't have to encounter that type of football going forward, which is a positive. Um, Ball said the first interview was so impressive, got chills. Yeah, look, it was very, very impressive. I have a good feeling about this manager. I feel like he's gonna be more connected to the fans and trust the youngsters more. Yeah, that's the kind of feeling I got as well from his interview. Bosley is connected more already than Slot did in 2 years, and I'm not even joking. You're probably right because I don't feel like Slot wanted or was trying to make an effort to build that connection. I don't think he understood the magnitude of the job. You can't just be a good coach or the good tactician at Liverpool. The manager role or the main role is bigger than that. It's bigger than football, if that makes sense. You have to really resonate with the fans, the city, the people of Liverpool. if you don't build that connection, you're not going to be here for a long time, and that's why he was only there for 2 years. So for me, it's certainly a positive that he understands this club in terms of Iraola, and I think he knows what to expect being in the Premier League. So he knows what Liverpool's about. So yeah, it is positive. And I feel like with him already being a manager in the Premier League is a huge plus point. There is no transitional period for this new coach to come in. He knows what to do in order to be successful in the Premier League. Of course, he's not won silverware, but he helped Bournemouth achieve something that they have never achieved in their history, which is European football. And he was very close to getting Champions League football. That's how much of an impact he had. And I believe this season, or should I say this year alone, he's undefeated. So because of that, it should give you an idea of what this coach is about. So for me, it's very, very positive going forward. Ozzy is busy boxing up all the DJ equipment. Listen, the DJ equipment will still be there, when Andoni Iraola helps us win a few trophies. So yeah, so for me, it'll all be there in due course, but not for Slot. It's now for Iraola in that sense. Excuse me. Boss says, I think we won't sign a centre back. I would be quite disappointed if we don't. And I'm not saying, let's spend big on a centre back. I wouldn't even mind signing a Senesi on a free transfer. I feel like it would make sense to get someone that understands Iral's way of playing, an experienced centre back, but he's a ball playing centre back. He's very, very good on the ball. So for me, that type of signing would be a very smart signing from Liverpool. Only time will tell. Wayne's about Aussie and chat. Big up, Wayne. I hope you're doing well. Daz, big up Daz. He says, Aussie, big up, bro. Do you think we get Schlotterbeck? I I would love to say yes. I just don't know because his release clause isn't quite clear if it's available from now or from next season. We're not quite sure. But from what I've heard, if someone meets the release, I think it's not even one certain figure. It's between 50 to 60 million pounds. So if Liverpool's serious, then I feel like they would do that. But maybe they don't want to have a deal where they pay the large sum all at once. Maybe they want installments. That's the way it goes in terms of transfer fees. So we'll see. Maybe he would be a signing for us for next year or next summer if Van Dijk was to leave. But I think it would make more logical sense to get him over now and then become the successor going forward. That's what I would do in this scenario. Thoughts on the interview? Hopefully, you are more in on Iran. Oh, you're speaking to Wayne there. Wayne said, I don't take much notice of new player manager interviews because they didn't read from a script. I don't think he was reading it from a script. It felt more authentic to how he spoke. But yeah, I think it'll be one over, Wayne. In due course, I think you will be. Deleuze Steve said, big up Deleuze Steve. He said, today is a good day, but I remain cautious due to what Wayne brought up yesterday night. Yeah, I understand, in terms of having reservations, but the contract thing, I don't feel like is a big deal. I feel like people are kind of missing it. He's doing it in a very noble way where he doesn't want to just have a big long-term contract, and if things don't work out, he walks away with a big paycheck. That's not his ideology. That's not his way of doing it. He's an honest individual. So you have to respect that. You can't query that too much. But hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I don't think it's a huge deal for me personally. Um, I think if we will get us playing better, but whether that translates into trophies is another thing. Because don't forget, on paper, Slot is a better manager. No, I don't want him back. Uh, on paper, how would you say Slot is the better manager because he won the Premier League title? But that wasn't a Slot team. I'm still going to say that's a Klopp team. So the fundamentals were already presented for him, and he just kind of just took it on board. Yes, he was still the manager that won the league, so I can't take it away from him in that regards. But I don't think on paper Slot's the better manager. Even if you're looking at stats in terms of style of play, Iraola, surpasses him in a lot of areas there. So for me, I'm not quite sure there. Uh, Boss it, Ozzy, you gotta help me with the negative from Wayne and Steve. Look, everyone's entitled to opinion. That's why I always say on the show. Like, if people aren't bought in, that that is up to you guys. It really is. Um, as a content creator, I'll try and give you my honest take in terms of what I see happening with Liverpool right now, and hopefully in time, you can see what I'm seeing in terms of what this coach will do for us in the future. I truly believe he is the perfect fit. I don't think there's many coaches, especially in the Premier League, that fits the ideology of what we want to see as the fan base in terms of playing heavy metal football again. So for me, he ticks a lot of boxes. I'm not going to say, he was my number one choice all along. I wanted Xabi Alonso, but that might have been more because he was a former player and there was already a connection there. I think the connection thing is a big deal for us Liverpool fans. But when I look at it from a football standpoint, I think Irola is actually a better fit than Alonso because Alonso's sort of best brand of football was him producing a formation in terms of a 3-4-3 at Bayer Leverkusen. I don't think we're fully equipped to play a back three, and it's not the kind of setup that I like. I find it a tad bit negative if we're playing a back three because it ends up forming into a back five at some point when you're defending as a team. So for me, I would rather us play a bit more progressive football, a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. That's the kind of formations I want to see, and that is the systems that Irola has deployed over the years for Bournemouth and for the team in Spain, which was Rayo Vallecano. So that is his philosophy, that's his ideology. So hopefully we'll see that kind of brand of football going forward. They're not who next is, but I just am a little cautious. And look, everyone's entitled to be cautious. And unfortunately, because of what happened last season, there will be fans that feel a bit worried about this appointment. Even Jamie Carragher's expressive, but then again, I'll be honest with you, I don't really listen to Jamie Carragher that much. There's some of the things that he said last year, especially about Mo Salah, I've lost a bit of respect for him, but that's probably another discussion for another day. I will say that there is always a risk at hand. Even if we had got Luis Enrique, he's the best coach in Europe right now by a country mile. But even that would have been a risk because he's not Premier League proven. He might not have the right players, or he might clash with the owners in terms of who has the final say in terms of signing. So there's always a risk in every shape or form. Uh, but hey, hopefully, once we see how the football is being played, he'll win over some of the fans that are cautious at the minute. Uh, he was the manager of final top three teams in the Netherlands. Big percentage on him winning things there. Irola has coached smaller teams and got promoted, and Mirandes and Rayo and got Europe with Bournemouth. So that's big achievements than winning titles with finals. I have to slightly disagree. I get what you mean in terms of helping teams like Real Vallecano, and you've got Bournemouth, of course, achieving European football for the first time in their history. But end of the day, if you're winning league titles, you have to give credit to that coach. So I wouldn't quite agree with that, but I do believe that Iola's brand of football is better than what Slot portrayed, and I feel like he's the right fit for this club in terms of what we want to see on the pitch. Um, Steve said, will he trust the academy? Well, in terms of what he said today, it sounds like he would because in preseason he's mentioned that he would love to see, what the youngsters can offer as well as the players that were out on loan. So it gives everyone a clean slate to have an impression in terms of the team. So for me, that's a huge positive to hear that he's going to give the youngsters an opportunity, including the players from the academy as well as the under 21. So yeah, what more do you want him to say? He's pretty much made it very clear that he will give players opportunities, and that's what we want to see going forward. Um, Bastoni is a realistic odds. We know that. I know, but I always feel like I have to throw his name in there, especially when I'm talking about potential um, defenders that could be signed at Liverpool. But yeah, have to throw his name in there, I guess. With Irola coming in with his high intensity style, do you think we will or should sell Isak and Frimpong due to the injuries? No, I think with Frimpong, he's pretty much tailor made for this type of football. He likes his fullbacks to be explosive and bomb forward. Irola used to be a fullback himself in his heyday, so he knows what it takes for a fullback to be successful in this style of play. So for me, no, Frimpong, yes, he's picked up a few injuries, but that could be managed a bit better in terms of conditioning as well as a bit of rotation, with other players in the squad. So that's something we can look towards next season. In terms of Isak, I said a few days ago, I do have slight concerns in terms of, does Isak fit the style of play? I think there'll be a different approach for Isak. I don't think he will be the focal point. He won't be the one constantly pressing. But what Irala will make sure happens with Isak is that he is as far up the pitch as possible. He's on the shoulder of the opponent's defenders and nowhere near the midfielder. Because what Isak used to do last season was he tend to drop deep to get involved because he wasn't getting any service, especially from our defense who weren't able to set up any plays. So because of that, he tended to drop deep so he can get the ball from the midfield. And unfortunately, that affected his positioning going up top. So I think Irola is going to have a different approach with him where he wants him to utilize his pace, but not just for pressing, for him to attack the channels and be in and around the 6 yard box. So it's going to be a different approach for the striker. And hopefully, with our defenders being a bit more progressive in their distribution, that will allow, diagonals being played and long balls up top to find Isak in goal scoring opportunities. So we're not just going to be a team that plays tiki taka football. That's not the ideology. It's going to be vertical football, making sure we're attacking from the front and making sure that we have different ammunition. So if we've got to play a long ball to get a goal, we'll do that. So I don't think that's something that should phase us. As long as we play good football, I think that's the key there. So for me, um, both players will fit the style of play for Iraola. Although I did have concerns about Isak, but I think you have to just be smart in how you use these sort of players because in and around the box, Isak is lethal. Look at the goal he scored a few days ago against Norway. That's the type of finish you want to see from your striker. So for me, I'm excited in terms of how we're going to play, that champagne football again. That's something to look forward to going into next season. South Asian Scouts says, good evening. Big up yourself, South Asian Scouts. I hope you're well. Due to the amount of work we need to do in the first team backups, Irola will use youth to plug gaps next season. Potentially, but only time will tell if that's going to be the case because he might already have ideas in terms of bringing in certain players, and he probably would have had those discussions with Richard Hughes beforehand. So let's see in terms of what Irola does, but I'm intrigued to see what type of profiles he'll go for. Both says hopefully academy is the most important thing at every football club. Our academy needs to be as reliable as La Masia and Ajax Academy. Unfortunately, it's lagging behind. It's a golden generation coming up now. To be fair, we have a lot of huge potential players coming through the academy and the under 21s. I think there was one area in defense where we felt like we didn't have sufficient centre backs, and we've added, players from abroad, and Dai being one of them, and Duque also potentially joining as well. But we have some very, exciting players coming through. So I wouldn't quite say that. Of course, you're using La Masia and Ajax Academy as an example. But I think we are heading towards that direction where we're trying to unearth hidden gems or have the best youth players coming through the ranks. So I think the vision is there, and I think it's a work in progress going forward. Whereas Semenyo said in his interview the other day, Irola trains the day before the game, and no matter what day after the game too. If Irola does that with us, we'll be dead on our feet by October. Um, Look, everyone has different methods, and those methods were very similar to Jurgen Klopp. And I don't think, as a fan base, we had huge concerns in terms of the way training was deployed, did we? So, you know, we have to take everything with a pinch of salt. Of course, it's going to take, I would say, it'll take at least a couple of months for the players to get accustomed to this way of training because it's a big switch up from what they were doing last season. Slot gave them Wednesday and Sundays off. Iraola gives no players any days off. So it's going to be training every day and making sure they are fully fit. I also watched that interview with Semenya, and he said that for the first few months, the focus was just running. There were training sessions where all they did was run, run, run. So that's about maintaining a certain level of stamina and also being conditioned to play at a certain pace throughout the games and as the season progresses as well. So for me, you know, we're talking like we're the ones that are doing the running. That's the players' job. That's what they're getting paid to do. So If they want to be successful, they have to put in the work. It's as simple as that. The way we trained last year, we trained for 20 minutes. We had days off. People had city breaks here and there. I don't want to hear that. That just sounds like a bit of a summer camp sort of vibe there. So for me, that's not how it should be. The players should be fully focused, fully on top in terms of what needs to be done in order for them to be in tip-top shape and to be successful for a club. That's all I care about. So for me, if that's the way that Irola wants to do it, so be it. Because that's what Jurgen Klopp did, and we played some of the best football within the last 10, 20, 30 years. So there's a reason why we were successful under Jurgen Klopp. Hopefully, it's called Murder Ball by Piazza. Fair, but that won't work when we play 3 games a week. The thing is, he'll have to adapt his training a little bit based on the number of fixtures that we have, which I'm sure he'll do. But it's an intriguing prospect for him, and I'm sure for the fans as well. Aforiola didn't have the aura, but man, he does. I feel like when we speak about managers having aura, we just look at Jurgen Klopp and then we have to think they're going to be like that. That's not always the case. There is different types of aura, if that makes sense. And the way he spoke with real confidence, um, and he had a clear vision in terms of what he wants at the club. So for me, that's very, very positive to see. So yeah, I'm excited by his appointment. Um, South Asian Scout says, "Do you think Edwards gave him Firmino and Klopp's dentist contact? Looking at him reminded me of so much of when Klopp first joined Liverpool. Yeah, if he wants that contact, I'm sure one of those guys will forward that phone number. Um, Even Klopp's at the height of the season, it's more about finding time to recover more than train. That's true. Yeah, it won't happen every day, Wayne, but most of the time they will train like that. Yeah, even if they were to train, a couple of hours the next day after a game, it's not a big deal. One thing I found interesting from the Semenyo interview was that, let's say Liverpool are playing at 12:30 on a Saturday, they will train at 12:30 on the Friday, the day before. So the body is accustomed to playing at that time 24 hours later. So it's just little things that might just be the small details that helps you win games as well. So for me, look, whatever methods work that helps us get wins and helps us win trophies, I'm all for it. Sam Agenska says, hierarchy needs to back him properly now in the transfer window. Both incomings and outgoings, yes. And it has to be his influence. It has to be his decision in terms of players he wants to bring in, but also players that he feels that might not be adequate quality for his type of football. So hopefully he has the final say and the influence to make those decisions. Um, we can't complain about Slot having vacation all the time and then complain about for much training. Yeah, can't have it both ways, guys. If we start winning games, we start winning trophies, we won't be complaining about this because we're not the ones doing it. We're just watching the matches and admiring what they're doing as a team. So yeah, I think we're being a bit too cautious, but that's because we probably got PTSD from Stockball of last season. That's probably why. And we just don't know what to expect going forward. So yeah, I can understand the slight hesitance or the cautiousness about this new appointment, but Slot is on my rear view right now. I'm not even thinking about him. For me, I'm looking forward, and I feel like this guy is the perfect fit for us. So I'm excited in terms of what he brings to the table. Um, Trophies are not everything Oz. The feel good factor is back, and the most important thing. Oh no, I disagree. It is about trophies. Of course, I'm not saying the feel good factor isn't important, and the brand of football isn't important. But let's not kill ourselves. It is about winning trophies. So for me, that's what the club has been built on. We've been successful over the years because we've been dominating European football, domestic football. So trophies is basically, gives you the weight, it gives you the not the bragging rights, because it's not really about just bragging about it. It gives you merit in terms of how successful you are as a team. So trophies, it's not everything, but of course it plays a big role. So I'll slightly disagree on that one. Uh, why are you so negative to Yola, man? Did you want someone else? Is that in regards to me? Is that in regards to anyone else in the chat? If you feel like I'm being negative, I feel like you're not really getting the gist here. You've been watching my shows in recent weeks. I've said Irola is my first choice ahead of Sebastian Hoeneß, which is the one that you wanted. Um, I'm excited about Iraola. I might not be jumping and dancing about it right now, but for me, he's the perfect fit. So I'm overly excited about his appointment. Blizzard for Wrestler says we need Ismaila Ganil kid had even better metrics than Jack Cave. Not familiar with that name, so I'm gonna have to look into that. If he's a similar profile, then maybe we can look into that. But I feel like we need to sign an experienced defender to add to the rank. We've got Jack Cave, we've got Leone, who are young centre backs. I think we need a player of experience within the squad now. Uh, Boss says it's important, but everyone knows when a good feel factor is back, the trophies will come. That is true. That is true, of course. I don't want us to. Well, I don't want us to win, trophies the way Arsenal play. I want us to play football the right way. But look, if we win trophies playing elements of Harambe, which won't happen, I don't think that would be the case under Iraola. But I feel like we'll hopefully play that brand of football that we've all been accustomed to, and trophies will follow through as well. So yeah, I do agree on that one. This Liverpool after all, trophies will always come. Yeah, that is true. But the trophies have to be the target going into next season. Um, Wayne said he wanted a manager of experience. Uh, the only manager of experience would have been Enrique. The rest of the managers we were linked with were young and up and coming and potentially untested at European level. So there weren't many options out there, but that's just my opinion there. Sean Mohammed Speaker says, why allow Senesi to go to Spurs? We shouldn't have to spend all the time. Ala Matip. I agree. Do you know what? With the Spurs speculation, it's kind of gone quiet. I've not really heard much in regards to him moving there. Robertson was pretty much not official news, but it felt like an agreement was in place months before, and he was just going to move over as agreed because the condition was that they had to stay in the Premier League, which is what they did. Uh, with Senesi, it's kind of gone a bit quiet, and because we've been linked to him for the last couple of months, I do believe there has been some discussion in the background. But was that enough, or was it too late? We don't know at this stage. So look, only time will tell. I feel like Senesi would be a smart signing. My choice would be Schlotterbeck because I feel like he has a higher ceiling potentially, and I feel like he would be a great long-term successor of Van Dijk, and he's younger. He's 25. Senesi's 29. So that plays a part as well. But if we wanted to find a sort of a short gap signing for this season, I think Senesi would be perfect. And then we can maybe look towards signing a Schlotterbeck or someone else next summer onwards if we want to find a direct replacement for Van Dijk. But yeah, I think if Senesi isn't agreed a deal, it would make perfect sense to sign him and no transfer fee involved, free agent. Um, it would be a very, very astute signing from us. Boss says Enrique would never come. Same with Klopp and Pep. Yeah, so Klopp's not returning. Pep wouldn't come to Liverpool straight after Man City. I think he's probably going to take a break from football anyway, and then maybe he'll get an international job. That might be his vision going forward. Enrique, as much as I was dreaming about us getting Luis Enrique as manager, not possible. They've just won back-to-back Champions League title. There's no way they're going to let go of their manager. So yeah, Enrique would have been the only option that held that kind of experience that you're referring to. Um, Nagelsmann, yeah, but Nagelsmann's not available. He is currently part of a World Cup campaign. Um, and when that campaign finishes, even if you wanted him after the World Cup, it gives us a few weeks before the transfer window closes. So for me, that would have felt like a bit of a rushed appointment. Um, and it wouldn't have positioned us well for next season, as he wouldn't have even managed the team in preseason. So who does that? Does that make sense? So for me, Iraola was the right fit, in my opinion. Klopp has had his time. I don't want him back. I agree. Klopp, he's semi-retired. Let him enjoy the fruits of his labor. So yeah, let him just do what he's doing right now. Uh, of course, I would love to have Klopp back, but we got to live in the real world. He's not planning on becoming a manager again. if he does, or if he plans on doing it, it'll probably be for the national team. But I don't think that's something he wants to do anytime soon. He's enjoying the semi-retired life, so let the man live, let the man enjoy himself. Klopp had his time and won what he won. He's happy where he is, so leave him. That leave. So leave him, be happy. Yeah, of course. But if you wanted to come back, everyone and their dog to have him back. I only added Chiesa Oz and barely use it. Yeah, got Chiesa. Chiesa barely made any appearances whatsoever. So yeah. So if Iola wins trophy, it's Slot's team. Then I wouldn't say that. Um, I would say that the thing with Slot was that the style of play hadn't changed. There was a slight adjustment, in terms of build-up play from the back. But I think once we sold or once Trent Alexander-Arnold left, we missed that piece of the puzzle where we didn't have a player that could play from the back. And then the whole blueprint of the way we play football went into shatters last summer. Slot did the 360 on Klopp, and there was no identity in terms of how we played the previous season when we won the league. So this was Slot's way of playing. This was Slot ball, basically. And I don't think, if Irano wins the league, it won't be Slot's team. I'm not going to label that because the brand of football would have been different. But yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. I'm looking forward to next season. Which I will say though, I'm looking forward to Iola letting the players express themselves. Yep. So the interview I watched with Semenya, that's something he said. What was the best thing that he learned under Iraola, and he said that Iraola told the players to play with freedom, to express themselves. So in training, they were always given the space to do whatever. So for example, Semenya would say that, oh, he was doing rainbow flicks in training, and the manager would say, well, look, if you can produce that on match day, why not? Go for it, express yourself, play with that freedom. And that's something he takes on board with him, even at Man City, and he's not even managed by Irola anymore. So for me, that's a very positive influence to have in your career. And if you've got a manager that wants you to play that freedom, that expression, for me, you're going to see the attacking players play to their ability, play to their potential. With Real Ngoma is the one I'm thinking right now when I say potential. So yeah, it's a huge positive to have a coach that's not pragmatic, and he's going to be a coach that will allow the players to play fluid football and express themselves on the pitch, because I feel like in this modern day you don't get to see players express their abilities. They're restricted, they're asked to play a certain way in order to fit a system. Of course, there will be a system in place, but I think in the final third the players will be able to interchange and just have organized chaos to an extent, to really have an impact going forward. So for me, that's a positive from the coach. That's what I'm looking forward to next season. Ozzy, do you expect a trophy next season? If so, which one? I will answer that question once we get some signings and once the transfer window closes, and then I will give you my exact take in terms of what to expect next season. At the minute, I don't think we're ready for the league. I don't think we're ready to compete for any trophy. At the minute, I don't think we're able to win any trophies, if I'm being honest with you. We've just let go of Salah, Robertson, Konaté. So there's big gaps in the squad. So we're not, if the season started today, I would not be confident about this team at all. So there has to be, a bit of sense in terms of making sure we find those replacements, and then let's see, how the squad looks like. So yeah, I'll be back later in the season. And I'll give you my take in terms of who or what, or should I say, how we perform next season. So Wayne's saying I'm affected the league title, but you don't seem to have faith in the coach. So that's a bit funny there. Everyone's telling me all is better than Slot, and Slot won it on his first season. Well, look, let's see. Why not? Can't rule it out. So let's see. Let's see who he signs. Because in terms of the team that Slot inherited, that was a team that Klopp, built in from the ground up. So it was a ready-made team for Slot. Slot didn't have to make any additions. He got Chiesa, but Chiesa wasn't really one of his signings. So because of that, it was pretty much a Klopp team. You can phrase it however you want, but that is the truth. So for me, Iraola is going to be able to add players that he believes will have an impact in the team. I'm very much sure of that. But he's also got some top players already in the squad. It's just finding the right balance and presenting the blueprint of how he wants them to play football. So the likes of Florian Wirtz, I think Florian Wirtz is going to have a sensational season. I'm going to say it right now. He's going to be amazing next season. Uh, so yeah, I guess you heard it here first. Double D said, "Let's go. Big up Double D. I hope you're well." Um, Xabi Alonso was your number one draft pick. Or stop the cap. No, I said that earlier on. I said Xabi Alonso was my first choice. I'm not going to deny it. I literally just said that a little while ago. But of course, if the man's not available, then I have to look elsewhere. I'm not going to, you know, cry a river and say, "Oh, I wish Alonso was there." No, he's gone over to Chelsea. He made his choice. I got to move forward. Slott's gone, so got to look forward as well. So for me, in terms of what the market present in terms of potential managers or head coaches, I looked at Iral and I thought he would be a great fit. And looking at the bigger picture, I do think Iraola is the better fit in comparison to Alonso. Playing a 3-4-3 formation, I'm not sure it would have fitted. I feel like it might have worked because he, used the likes of Florian Wirtz and Frimpong in Bayer Leverkusen. But I will still have a bit of reservation about that formation. Whereas for Iraola, this style of play is exactly what we saw under Jurgen Klopp. I'm not saying it's going to be exactly like Jurgen Klopp, but the style of play is reminiscent of that type of football. So for me, yes, Alonso was my number one choice. I'm not going to deny that, but you have to move on. And for me, I've moved on and I've looked at the market and I thought Iraola was the best fit for us. So yeah, I'm happy about that choice there. Um, Wayne says, Ozzy, you said you think Nagelsmann would feel like a Russian opponent. Don't you think Iraola is? We sack Slot and get him in the same week. No, because that would have been not premeditated, but it would have been in the works prior to that appointment. Don't think that we've just, sacked Slot all of a sudden and then boom, Iraola came. We would have had discussions with Iraola. I'm very much sure of that. I can't say for sure, but I am very certain that there has been dialogue between Richard Hughes and Iraola, in months and months in advance. So for me, this is not a rushed appointment. Nagelsmann, he can't leave the German position right now. If we approach Nagelsmann, the German FA would reject that approach. They'll say, nope, he's not available. We've got a World Cup that's going to begin next week. There's no way you can have him as the new Liverpool manager or Liverpool head coach. But what they might say, look, if you want him, you can pay compensation, and that can be done after the World Cup. The World Cup finishes end of July. So for me, that will make zero sense because then you've only got a few weeks to look at the transfer market, but also pre-season would have begun by then. Pre-season begins in the next 2-3 weeks. So if pre-season has begun, even if the senior players aren't there that are competing in the World Cup, you still have the youth players, you have players from on your loan deals, or you have players that are not playing international football, whether they haven't been selected or their countries aren't participating. Like Chiesa, for example, he will be there at pre-season if he hasn't been sold already. So for me, that would have been a rushed appointment. That wouldn't have been a smart appointment, in my opinion, because you're going into the season rushed. You haven't set up the plan. You haven't done a preseason training. You haven't done anything of that nature. Whereas sacking Slot early June and then getting Iriola in the same week is the best thing you could have done. Why should we have waited that long to appoint Iriola? That makes no sense. Right now, Iriola can come in, assess the situation in terms of the squad, what's needed. He can start doing preparations for pre-season now because he's got about 2-3 weeks to do that with his coaching staff. So that makes the most logical sense. So it's the perfect timing for me to appoint a new manager. The season just ended a couple of weeks ago, so it's the perfect time to get the new man through. So the timing isn't wrong. The timing is perfect, in my opinion. Whereas it's a rushed appointment because we won't get signed about a manager. Well, we've got a manager now, so we will make those signings. If we appoint Iraola in August or Nagelsmann, let's say in this scenario, if we'd got Nagelsmann after the World Cup, he would have joined literally in the beginning of August because he would have had a week off in terms of a holiday after a long, intense World Cup campaign, and the season starts mid-August. So what's the point? So that would have been a silly appointment for me. I'm not saying Nagelsmann isn't the right fit. I think Nagelsmann has the credentials to manage a top club like Liverpool, but that would have made sense for me in terms of the current situation of the of his sort of involvement with the German national team. So for me, I think Irola is the best fit at the minute. So yeah, I know you're not on board, but I think you will be at some point. Now let's move on and talk about some of the rumors that have been circulating over the last 24 hours. This one made me chuckle a little bit because I saw it from two different sources. One of the sources said that Cody Gakpo has submitted a transfer request because he couldn't continue without Slot. So I found that a bit funny, but um, that is the rumor. You know, another source has suggested that he has submitted a transfer request as he does not see a future at Anfield after the sacking of Arne Slot. So my thoughts on that, as much as I want it to be true, I don't think it's true. I don't think he's handed in a transfer request straight after Irala's appointment. That makes no sense. He hasn't had any dialogue with the new coach. So I think that's what's going to happen. He will have a discussion with the new coach at some point, whether it's now or whether it's after the World Cup. You know, he will have that sort of discussions uh, in due course. And there's nothing to suggest that Irola, you know, doesn't see Gakpo um, in his thinking in terms of the squad for next season. I personally would cash in on Gakpo. I think Gakpo um, isn't good enough to be a starter for Liverpool. I think we can do better in that area. And I feel like, you know, giving him a new contract and to have him as a squad player, you know, with the wages that he's earning, for me makes no sense. So for me, cashing on him, he still has stock, you know, in terms of his valuation. You know, you've got teams like Bayern Munich who will probably be in the market for a left winger. They wanted to sign Anthony Gordon, but of course, Anthony Gordon has gone over to join Barcelona. So because he's gone over there, there's an opportunity to sign a new left winger. So maybe that's something that's going to be on the cards. But in terms of this rumor, I don't think it's true. I think it's just someone having a bit of a laugh, a bit of a giggle. So I don't think there's any truth to it at all. Um, Wayne said we need Gakpo for this season because if he goes, we got no cover for left wing and striker. The thing is, I feel like for that position, maybe we'll sign a replacement. So I'm not saying this is the player, but a player like Rafael Leao would fit that profile there. A player that plays left wing, we can also cover striker because last season he predominantly played as a striker for AC Milan. So, you know, it depends in terms of what Irola wants. Does he see Gakpo as the right fit for the squad, for the team? If he doesn't, he'll sell him because I feel like there aren't many players in our squad where we could get big transfer fees from. I'm looking at Gakpo and McAllister as the two players that we can get, you know, big chunks of money. Other than that, I don't really see anyone else of high value. Um, Maybe Saboza, but I don't want to, you know, put that out there because I don't want him to leave. Even though there has been some whispers that he might, you know, might leave in the summer. That's because of interest from Real Madrid, but I don't think there's any truth to that. Winston, I would have sold Gakpo this summer if it wasn't for a continued injury. I hear what you're saying, Wayne, but I feel like for me, we need to sign at least two or three attackers. And you're probably thinking that's a bit overboard, Ozzy. But the thing is, Salah's gone. So we need a direct replacement for Salah. So that's the first choice right winger. Chiesa will also leave unless um, Irola has plans for him, which I doubt, if I'm being honest with you. So I'm expecting Chiesa to leave as well. And I would, in this scenario, sell Gakpo. So then you've got three vacant spaces there. You've got a space for left wing, you've got a space for right wing, and you've got another space for right wing. So you've got two spaces for right wing and one for left wing. So for me, the vision would be that you sign two players, one for left wing, one for right wing, and that third attacker is the versatile forward, the forward that can play on the wings, that can also play as a striker as well. So that way you have a player that will be technically on the bench, but can come in and play on the wings or can play as a striker if needed. So that's the way I would look at it going forward. So that would be my vision as a sporting director. So I'll give you a sneak peek for my show that I have scheduled for next week in terms of how I would implement the squad. So that's the way I would look at it going forward. Because I just feel like Gakpo is just not good enough to be at Liverpool. AR, big up AI says, I don't rate Irala. He isn't an elite head coach, won't handle the pressure. He's a similar head coach to Slot. Players will walk over Iraola. We won't challenge next season for EPL or UCL. I disagree. I'm definitely not on that wavelength. So for me, only time will tell. And I'm not saying you guys are wrong and I'm right. I'm not trying to sound like like I know it all. But for me, the signs are very positive. That's the way I'm looking at it right now. It's just an opinion, but that's how I'm seeing it. I'm seeing a lot of positives more than negatives in terms of what Irola can bring to Liverpool as a head coach. Looking forward to seeing that heavy metal football. That's something I've missed. Last season, as we spoke about earlier in the show, was an absolute ball fest. The way we played football should not be played at Liverpool. It just does not make sense. It's not a DNA. It's haram for us to play that kind of football. So that never needs to be envisioned by us Liverpool fans ever again. So that's why I feel like it's a positive that we've got someone like Iraola. I understand people's reservations, in terms of him not being a coach that's managed in European competitions, or he's not managed a team that play 2, 3 times a week, or he's not managed a big squad, or if he's not managed top players that may have egos. Yes, I get it. But the thing is, you'll never know until you give that person an opportunity. And I feel like in the current market, there aren't any experienced coaches. I know Pep's available, but he's not going to come to Liverpool right away. Luis Enrique, he's out of contract, but he will most likely get a new contract in the coming days. So who else is out there? There is no other coach out there unless you can give me a name. I don't want to see a Mourinho at Liverpool because I feel like that's that sail has shipped now. In my opinion, he's not that type of coach anymore. So for me, you look at the next big thing. You look at the next up and coming coach, and you've got someone in Iraola who is Premier League proven. And a lot of fans will say maybe Sebastian Hoeneß, he has similarities to Jurgen Klopp. I don't know if it was based on his football philosophy or it was aesthetics because he kind of looked like Jurgen Klopp as well. But he's inexperienced. He hasn't managed in the Premier League. He hasn't managed in Europe. He hasn't managed big squads. So he's got more sort of negatives in comparison to Iraola. Iraola has managed in the Premier League. He's managed 3 years in the Premier League. So he's Premier League proven. And the way he plays his football, the way his teams play football, they're not afraid to step up to anyone. They play the same brand of football week in, week out. Doesn't matter who the personnel are. If it's Man City, they're playing toe to toe against Man City. They're not deploying a different tactic. That's not the way Irola sees the game. That is not his ideology. So for him, it's always about playing on the front foot. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. Of course, there'll be tactical tweaks here and there to try and get the best out of the match or the best out of the team. But it's always going to be the same approach, and that's what I want to see. I want that from my team going forward. So if you have reservations, that's all good. But not to sound cheeky, but I feel like a lot of you guys will have to eat humble pie at some point because he will prove people wrong. That's the way I'm looking at it going forward. Yeah, so we need a goalkeeper, left back, right back, 2 centre backs, CDM, CM, left winger, right winger, and number 9. I don't think we need all of those players. Goalkeeper would only be the case if Alisson was to leave, or even Mama. That surely apparently he's loaned. He's rumored to want to go out on loan. Left back, I don't think we'll sign a left back. I think we will end up recalling Simicas, and then he'll play for one more season. Right back, yes, 100%. I read something just before I logged on today. Let me check who the source was. Andy Hunter from The Guardian, he said that a new right back is priority for Liverpool after Conor Bradley suffered a serious knee injury. And Frimpong, I guess, is regarded more as a backup or squad option. So they're looking towards an experienced centre back and a midfielder, as well as wingers and a right back. So that is definitely the case, and I agree with that. In terms of 2 centre backs, no, it won't be 2 centre backs. I think he'll be 1 centre back that comes in. Maybe that might not even happen, but I think it'll definitely be, or it should be 1. A CDM, yes. A centre mid, Depends on how many departures. If we see McAllister and Jones leave, then I guess yes, we get two centre mids. One would be a 6, one would be a 8 in that scenario. I don't think it'll be both. I think it'll be one or the other. So you guys can let me know who would you rather see leave the club? Would it be McAllister or Jones? For me, I'd rather be McAllister, even though on paper McAllister is the better player. But I feel like McAllister is on a slight decline. Although maybe he just wasn't playing to his abilities because of the negative tactics that was deployed by Slot last season. So who knows? It would depend on how much Iraola values McAllister, and it could be where McAllister ends up staying, and we see Curtis Jones leaving, who of course has 1 year left of his contract. Um, so let's see. But I feel like it will be one midfielder, although two would make sense. I see it being one, and it'll be interesting to see who he goes for. There's links with Alex Scott, who looks like a fantastic player, a player that's really improved under Iraola in the last 2-3 years. He came to Bournemouth from Bristol City as an attacking midfielder, player that could play on the left wing, kind of like a Curtis Jones. I think that's the perfect way of analyzing Alex Scott. He was like a Curtis Jones, where he was a bit more of an attacking player, came over to Bournemouth, was deployed in a sort of a deep playmaker role, and he's really flourished under Iraola. So if Curtis Jones was to leave, I'd have to say if I wanted a like for like replacement, Alex Scott certainly fits the bill for me. So I think that would be the one the club should be looking at. To be fair, uh, to do this season, Aussie bro, we know FSG they ain't gonna open up the checkbook again 2 summers in a row. Yeah, I hear you. That's probably why I gave you two recommendations. I said Senesi would be the smart signing on a free transfer, but if that's not a possibility because maybe he has signed up a contract with Tottenham, uh, I think Schlotterbeck becomes the signing for the long term, not just for the short term. He becomes a signing for now, but also replaces Van Dijk next season. And then you've got, Jack Leone, who are probably more well equipped next season with another year under their belt and being playing under Schlotterbeck and Van Dijk in this imaginary scenario that I'm presenting. But let's see what happens. I'm sure we'll spend some element of money. I don't see it being 450, and because we don't have too many outgoing players. But if Gakpo and McAllister were to leave, we could easily recoup about 150 million with those two sales there, in my opinion. And then other sales can add to that as well. But let's see what happens going forward. Uh, Double D said, let's get these likes up, guys. Appreciate your support at Double D. Yes, please, guys, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe as well. Steve says we need CR7, Messi, R9, Cafu, Maldini. We need to win the Premier League 38-0-0. Um, Unrealistic. Derek, big up Derek. He says football is about emotions. This is it. It's simple. He's got the X factor beyond tactics. Yeah, it's not just about tactics. You have to feel that emotion on the pitch. You have to feel that passion, that drive, that determination. And we didn't see that last season. And that comes from the coach. So if he's got that embedded in his personality, it's a win-win solution for me. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Armstrong was a toilet of a manager. I'd agree with you on that one, to be fair. Yeah, I said I wanted Luis Enrique, first choice and second choice, Xabi Alonso. Luis Enrique, I think he uh, uh, was was the first choice for many of us, but he's not available. If someone's not available, we can't just be so biased as Liverpool fans and think, oh, anyone and everyone will join us. You have to look at the current situation. He's just won back-to-back Champions League titles for PSG. They hadn't won it before Luis Enrique. So why on earth would they want to part ways with the manager unless he says, "I want to quit. I want a new challenge." That hasn't been communicated. In fact, there's been rumors for the last few weeks before the Champions League even occurred. Sorry, Champions League final even occurred that he wants to stay, and a contract is already in place for him to sign. So he's not available. And Xabi Alonso, I don't think the club wanted him based on you know, Alonso was available from January, so we hadn't made any contact. And I think maybe because he rejected us 2 years ago, that left a sour taste for the hierarchy at FSG. So maybe the bridges were burning in that regards. but he's not available. He is the Chelsea manager. He was appointed 2, 3 weeks ago. So, those 2 are not available, so you have to look elsewhere. Who else is going to be the right fit for the club? Who else is going to bring that progressive football back to Liverpool? For me, Iraola was the one. Sebastian Hoeneß was a second candidate, I would say, because he seems like he could be a top coach in the near future, but he would have been a bigger risk for me, and it felt like he would have felt like more like a project coach, um, whereas Iraola, because he's been proven, it doesn't feel like a project for me. It looks like this is, and that's no disrespect to Bournemouth, this is the next step up for him. So he's ready to take on this challenge. That's the way I'm looking at it. Um, that's I want EPL, UCL, FA. Well, we all want all the trophies, but there's nothing guaranteed that you can win every trophy. So we have to we have to be realistic here. Um, Everyone wants to win everything, just enjoy the journey. Yeah, look, I feel like we're a little bit fixated in terms of us just winning trophies. Yes, I want to win trophies. I've been shameless over the years and say, quad talk and all that sort of stuff, especially when we've been close to achieving those targets there. But we have to take a step at a time. We've just played some of the worst football in our recent history under Arne Slot. So we've got a new person on board now. We've got someone that will play progressive, high energy football. So that's something to look forward to. And we are in the off-season period right now. Transfers are being discussed. They need to be made in the coming weeks. We've got a World Cup starting next week, so obviously that's going to be a slight distraction from a club point of view. And we have to also make sure players are not injured, participating, and they all come back fit and ready for pre-season once they have finished their duties uh, for the international teams. So, you know, of course, we want to win everything, but we have to take it one step at a time. Look, if you're not excited about this new coach, look, that's entirely up to you. But I feel like if you really were slot out last year, you should feel some level of excitement because there was a slim chance that he was going to be given another opportunity. So how would you guys have felt if Slot was the head coach for another season? I would be absolutely annoyed, just to say it mildly there. I was going to say something else, but let me try and keep it PG there. Um, for me, I would have actually seriously considered closing the channel because I couldn't continue um doing watch alongs and all that sort of stuff. Because for me, I'm not just saying I want to be a content creator because we're winning games, but you guys will know if you follow the channel. I do content on a high volume. I try and do daily shows. This is not my job. This is a hobby. This is a passion of mine. So for me, if I'm going to use my spare time in the evenings to do shows with you guys, it has to be worth my while as well. And for me to watch slot ball, which I regard as harmful again, I'd rather just not do anything, to be fair. So look, I'm relieved that we've got a new coach, new manager, and I think whoever the appointment would have been, it would have been exciting regardless because it would have been a different approach. It wouldn't have been slot ball again. It would have been different football that we're going to envision next season. So for me, it could have been anyone. I still would have been excited, but I'm a little bit more. I say a little bit. I'm a lot more excited because I feel like Irola is the perfect fit for us in terms of what we could have done in terms of the next appointment. Trying to find someone that resonates with heavy metal football that Jurgen Klopp gave us for the last 8, 9, 10 years. That's what I want to see back at Anfield. That's what I'm seeing in the Liverpool shirt. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But yeah, if you're not on board, that's all good. But you will be. That's the way I'm going to say it in that way. Ozzy, I heard something today about Mama not being the sort of goalkeeper Ola wants to, so he might be sold. A viewpoint that me and Irola share, I guess, because I don't think he's good enough either. So yeah, if we need to cash in on him, yeah, we'll have to get another goalkeeper. Um, yeah, so we need to sell Chiesa. Chiesa will go. I don't think that's going to be a difficult one. He wasn't given any game time, although Irola might want Chiesa to be heavily involved. But I just feel like at this stage of his career, Chiesa might not be equipped to play high intensity football. And he's had his fair share of injuries also. I feel like we need to just have a different approach. Go for younger and hungrier players on the wings that will give us that constant pressing and that approach in the final third. So that's the way I would look at it going forward. FSG are happy getting UCL football, and Iola is an elite head coach and won't do anything next season. That's your words, but what is there to suggest that he can't become an elite coach or he can't achieve anything next season? Did you have the same opinion for Slot when he first joined? Because I know there were fans that did say that. They did say that who the hell is this board guy? He's another Ten Hag from the Eredivisie. What does he know about Premier League football? He ain't gonna win anything. And he wins the Premier League in the first season. So doesn't matter how he did it, in terms of doesn't matter what team helped him achieve that target. He won it in his first league. That will never be taken away from Slot, whether you like him or not. He will always have that place in history as winning his first league title in his first season. So I'm sure not everyone had this same energy that, oh, Slot isn't a head coach or Slot isn't an elite head coach, because the viewpoint would have been, look, he's got big shoes to fill. You know, we have to give him a chance. We have to give him an opportunity. And just because he's flopped and Irola comes, it doesn't mean the sort of the viewpoint changes. Irola needs to be given time as well, like every coach does. Doesn't matter what the scenario is. Every coach needs to be given time. Jurgen Klopp needed time as well in terms of deploying his tactics. So got to be a bit patient here. I feel like we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, having these expectations. The guy's literally just walked in today, guys. He's just been announced today. So let's calm it down a little bit in terms of, you know, what to expect. And let's see what happens in terms of the transfers. Let's see what happens in terms of pre-season, all that sort of stuff. So we just have to wait and see in terms of what Iola offers as a coach. But I feel like we've got to look at the glass half full rather than half empty. But that's just the way I'm looking at things, to be fair. What has Iola won as a head coach / manager? He hasn't won trophies from what I know, unless someone can correct me. Maybe he's won trophies at clubs in Spain. But what he's brought to the table is that he's transformed Bournemouth, where they were a team that were probably fighting for relegation before he came. And then what happened was that he was able to achieve something that they hadn't done in their whole career or their whole history as a club, and that was that they were able to qualify for European football. So it might not sound like a big deal for us as Liverpool fans because we are accustomed to playing European football every season. But for a team like Bournemouth that haven't achieved it, that haven't seen it, you know, their capacity, what is it, like 14,000 in the stadium? Those 14,000 fans will get to see European football next season. So it's a huge deal for them. So it might not be something presented in a trophy, but what it will be is that you're going to see European football at your club. Like that's something that, you know, not every club is able to achieve. You know, Crystal Palace have done in the last couple of years, but you know, generally you don't see that. And when you're supporting a team that are not the big boys, you know, that is a special moment. So you know, you can't ignore that just because it's not presented in silverware. That is not an achievement. It's still an achievement. But we can have that conversation this time next year. If we've won trophies, then maybe we have to have a discussion about it. But right now, yes, he hasn't won a trophy. But who says he can't? You know, football doesn't stop today. He's the manager for the foreseeable future. So we'll have to wait and see. There is Iran is the best person for the club. It's super clear. I think he's got the right personality. I definitely agree. I feel like he's humble, but I can kind of see the element of hunger in him wanting to achieve success. You know, he's made it to a big club, so he's going to take this opportunity with both hands, and he's going to try and implement his best to make sure we go back to the top. That's the way I saw it in the first interview. Maybe everyone else saw it differently, but that's the way I felt after listening to his words. Armin says Irola, in my opinion, would have fit Liverpool better than Alonso anyway. Xavi doesn't play heavy metal football. while Iraola style gives more clock. But 100% agree with you, Amir. That's the way I'm looking at it. And fans will be like, "Oh, Oz, you've been talking about Alonso for like 2 years. You want Alonso?" Yes, I wanted Alonso. I'm not gonna lie, but that might have been based on him being a former player, and I love the way he played football for Bayer Leverkusen. But if you look at Liverpool, we don't really play that kind of system or that kind of way of football. So if you're trying to find a coach that is going to be sort of reminiscent of that heavy metal football, I think Iraola plays that type of game, and we've seen it for Bournemouth. Whenever we face Bournemouth, I know we beat them, on the first day of last season, but that was a difficult game, and we just about won it because of Chiesa's final goal there. But whenever we played them, they've always played real football, progressive football, no energy, no fear whatsoever. That's what I want to see from my team going forward. So for me, that is exactly what I want to see. Wayne's, I understand what you mean, but I want a serious head coach to win trophies, and I want fear factor back. But why do you not think that fear factor will be back under Iraola? Just because Iraola isn't a big name yet doesn't mean he can't become the big name that you're after in this scenario. If we play heavy metal football like Jurgen Klopp, are you telling me that's not going to bring the fear factor back? You'll have to wait and see. That's the best thing I can say right now. You'll have to wait and see. Uh, I want Liverpool to win the Super Bowl for an NBA Finals. Why not? Why not, Steve? Um, can because Iraola control the changing room and push players to win. Yeah, I would assume so. If you're looking at Bournemouth, you can't tell me there was no player that hadn't improved under his management. A lot of players improved. Semenyo improved dramatically. That's what allowed him to move over to a team like Man City. So yes, it's going to be a test for him to manage top players, players with egos. But I don't really see any of our top players having that type of ego. It's not Real Madrid. We don't have Mbappe in the squad, so it's not going to be that type of ego. You're not going to see a player that acts like a general. It's not going to be that kind of that atmosphere. So for me, that's not going to be a huge issue. But what he does, one of his specialities as a coach is that he improves players and he pushes them to be the best version of themselves. So for me, that's a strong skill set, if you ask me. Um, he's won the Cypriot Super Cup in 2018. Listen, respect the Cypriot Super Cup, innit? Why not? Uh, Systemically, I don't know how to pronounce that word, but because so he says Zabarnyi is a flop at PSG so far, but I think Irola can make him great again. Listen, when I watched him for Bournemouth, I always thought he was a very good defender, and I actually felt like he made Hoyson look better than what he probably was. And that's not me just throwing shade on Hoyson. So look, sometimes going to certain clubs might not be the right fit. PSG, I don't feel like he was ever going to displays Pacho or Marquinhos in that team. So he was always going to be third or fourth choice. So let's see. I feel like Zabarnyi could be a realistic option for us. I think if you are trying to upgrade on Konaté, I think Zabarnyi is an upgrade. If you're trying to find a like for like sort of profile, he's younger, 23 years of age, so he'll definitely fit the bill in my opinion. Um, WD saying, "LOL, you're killing me." To Steve, hey man, a cup is a cup. Why not? Bonkers, big up Bonkers. It hasn't had much chance. Yeah, he's no, to be fair, he's played a number of games, but I would probably say those games, maybe came off the bench more than anything else. So yeah, he wasn't playing week in, week out, if that makes sense. Double D says, I'm looking forward to playing a more attractive brand of football. Watch us play in 2005, 2006 made me shed a tear. Look, that's what we want. We want to see that attractive brand of football. And of course, once you're playing that football where you're demolishing teams, it of course leads to progression and it leads to winning trophies as well. So that's the way we should be envisioning it. That's what I'm looking forward to as well. So yeah, totally agree with you. Ray, big up Ray said football has moved past Klopp's heavy metal football. If you're looking at it in terms of last season, yeah, the Premier League is certainly moving away from that. Uh, well, we can be a unique team in the league where we play that brand of football, and if we're effective, the teams are going to find it very hard to do with us. So why not? Why not be different? Why not? Why should we follow the crowd? Why should we, be a flock of sheep and just do what everyone else is doing. Let's be unique. Let's be, you know, our own selves in this scenario. So that's the way I would look at it, to be fair. By the way, have you seen that Madrid is moving at this transfer window? They hope to get Vitinha from PSG. They are moving absolutely, man. What's the guy's name? Is it Enrique Riquelme? Have I just made that up? Of course, Riquelme is the great Argentinian. I believe that is his name. Let me have a look. Yeah, it is actually Enrique Riquelme. I wasn't just making up a Spanish name on the spot. Um, he said he's got Haaland signed up in the background, and uh, I don't know what's going on there. They are literally pulling all the tricks to try and get their votes in. Um, it's going to be interesting first in terms of who wins the election there at Real Madrid, and secondly, are they speaking factual there? Have they actually got these players lined up, and who are those players? Um, there's no way this guy is going to get Haaland and Rodri at the same time at Real Madrid. And then I think someone else, I think he was Florentino Perez mentioned Vitinha. Someone asked him about um, Elise, but he said that no, it's not Elise, but he has a that's probably worth like 150 million pounds or euros, I should say, in the game right now. So who knows what these guys are doing? They're pulling all the tricks out of the bag right now. But it's an absolute chaos going on there. There's a bit of a show, a bit of a circus, quite frankly. That's what it feels like right now. Um, it's not that he flops; it's a political thing with the PSG goalkeeper. Then, uh, goalkeeper is Russian, he's Ukrainian. Oh, damn! I did not know that. Is that actually true though? Um, I don't really know too much about. Obviously, I know who you're referring in terms of Safanov being the goalkeeper, and I know Zabarnyi is Ukrainian, but I don't think that would have played a role in terms of team selection. No, if you guys have any insight, let me know. I've never really heard of that, to be fair, but um, they don't talk or shake hands. That's fair because you know I if a player was Palestinian and then they had an Israeli person in the same squad, there's no way they're in any dialogue. So I get that element. But if that is affecting team selection, that would potentially mean that one of them has to leave. You can't have that dynamic within the squad. So if that means Zabarnyi is available, I would like to say that Liverpool should be on the lookout for him. I think that would make more sense. Yes, Madrid is bidding 150 million for a player if Florentino Perez gets elected. But the thing is, who is that player? Is it Haaland? Is it Rodri? Who do they have in mind? Is it Gakpo? I don't know. I don't know who it could be. I'd happily take Gakpo to the airport. Why not? Wait to see on about suing Madrid. Do you know what? They should sue him because um, they can't just drop a name like that and think they can get away with it. If you listen to hip hop guys, the game, the rapper, he used to love name dropping left, right, and center. This is kind of like reminiscent of that, where he's just dropping names, saying, "Oh, I'm gonna get Haaland, I'm gonna get Rodri, I'm gonna this and that." It's like he's playing career mode in FIFA. So he's definitely taken a leaf out of Perez's book because that's what Perez used to do as well. But Perez used to get players through the door, so it wasn't like he was just talking. He kind of backed it up to an extent. He might not have gotten every player he mentioned, but he did get a large amount of players that fit the bill in terms of being a Galactico or something of that nature. Um, yeah, let's see. It's crazy. This is one Roman Rukelme, bro, one of the best camps in history. Yeah, he was an unbelievable player, really, really good player. I actually watched him live. One of my friends who's an Arsenal fan, he was going to their pre-season tournament. So I don't know if they do it now, but Arsenal used to do tournaments where they would have about a few games played on the same day. So one of the teams was actually Boca Juniors, and this was Riquelme towards the latter stage of his career. So he was playing on that day, and you can just tell he might not have been in prime form, but you can just tell in terms of technique, his first touch, his distribution. He was that guy. So yeah, fantastic player. Him and Pablo Aimar were my heroes growing up. Pablo Aimar was an unbelievable player. He was a player I would dream for us to sign because, of course, he was managed by Rafa Benitez. And I just remember that match in Anfield, where they absolutely demolished us the way they played, and Aimar was the focal point. He was everywhere. He was unbelievable. You know, they had such great players. They had, Vicente, Pablo Aimar. I think John Carew was there around the time. You know, they had a lot of players within the ranks there. But then now that, and then you had Ayala, the Argentinian centre back, some good players in that team. Ray said you won't be motivated to train or play attractive football if you lose a teammate in a car accident. Look, in terms of course, losing a player like Diogo Jota, but of course, more importantly for the squad, losing a friend and a brother like Diogo Jota, of course, it's going to have a negative impact on the squad. It is. The players didn't want to use it as an excuse, but it's a reality. It is something that you have to speak about because it had a huge psychological effect on the team. Um, because it was so sudden with it being a car crash. So, you can't deny that if that makes sense. Um, but at the same time, Slot had his way in terms of tactics. The tactics weren't to blame because of Jota's passing. The tactics were Slot's tactics. So the tactics were all wrong last season. And in terms of training, giving players days off here and there. That is Slot's way of managing the squad. He did it the season before as well. And you can't tell me he didn't because when we won the league title, my guy went over to Ibiza. Some will say I joined him. I never did. But, he went over to Ibiza and was playing up with Wayne Lineker and not Ozzy. You know what I mean? So that's what he was doing. That shows me the mentality that, he's not as driven as a coach like others, like a Jurgen Klopp. And people are even saying Iraola is a workaholic in that regards as well. Um, so I'm not going to say, look, with Joshua passing away, that wasn't a big factor. It was a big factor, but it wasn't the reason why um, training wasn't done with less intensity, and we didn't play attractive football because of Joshua's passing. That isn't the case. That's down to the management. That's down to the coach's tactics, his style of play, and it just wasn't the right fit because that's what we saw last season. We saw the true Slot tactics. We saw the true Slot ball, if you want to phrase it that way. That is what we saw last season. Um, so yeah, that's just my take on that. Do Spurs still have that Israeli player? Is that Solomon? No, I think they sold Solomon unless he went out on loan. But I don't believe he's there anymore, to be fair. Did they sell him to Fulham? Can't remember now. Um, Let me have a look. I have no idea. To be fair, I don't really care. But no, he's at Fiorentina on loan. So yeah, he's on loan there. So I don't know if that's where his future's going to be. And quite frankly, I don't really care, to be fair. Um, Crazy that the club signed Yossi Benayoun. Yeah, yeah, that's true. I just remember that too. Yeah. Wait, says, come on, Ozzy, you had Chiesa carrying you. Thanks for you. Hey, you're not supposed to let the people know that. I was trying to keep that hush hush, but yeah, we had a great time nonetheless. You were the you were there in the DJ booth. Ozzy, we had receipts, bloody hell. You guys not gonna let go, are you? Not gonna let go on that one. Uh Chef Andrew Big Up says, yep, size matters. What the hell? Yeah, I'm not gonna read the rest of that. People trolling me right now. Okay. I want to speak about Yan Diomande, or I just brought his picture up and not said anything. No, we haven't spoken about it. Let's speak about Yan Diomande. So we got a bomber, I would say to an extent today, and that was that Liverpool have made contact with Red Bull Leipzig for Yan Diomande as his pursuit steps up. Liverpool are currently in the strongest position to sign the winger, although Leipzig have pretty much stressed out that they don't want to sell the player. He's not for sale. And a bid in the excess of 130 million euros, which in pounds is 112 million pounds. That would be enough for them to change their stance. So it's a bomber in terms of us making the official approach, but the transfer fee is, for me, out of this world. And I know we're going through a weird time in world football right now because there are a number of positions where I feel like there aren't enough quality players out there. You know, back in the day, you have so many players in this position. If you're thinking, oh, if we could get him, it would be great. Now you're kind of clutching, and the valuation attached to those players don't really meet the skill set, if that makes sense. So for me, the right wing market, there aren't many players out there that I feel like fit the bill into the replacing uh Mohamed Salah. Um, that's why I've been quite adamant on us trying to get Yan Diomande. I feel like in terms of what he brings to the table, he's explosive. I saw a little clip just before I started the stream where he was running down the left wing for Ivory Coast. They faced France earlier today. I don't know what the scoreline was. I might check out after the show. Um, yeah, he's someone that is relentless in his approach, whether it's defending or attacking. You know, he works hard. He has a great work ethic, but from an attacking point of view, he's very very tricky to step up against. You know, gets past 2 3 players with ease, direct, great acceleration, great quick feet in terms of his skills. Has a decent shot on him, calm in front of goal. So despite his young age of being 19 years old, he does have a very, very high ceiling. There aren't many right wingers out there that have that type of high ceiling. So that would be, you know, the player you have to look towards. You're gonna have to um, pay top dollar, but I don't see a club paying 130 million euros, which is 112 million pounds. It's not happening. It is not happening. I feel like the most the club would pay would be 80 million, and that's really pushing the envelope there. So for me, I understand it if they don't want to pursue because that is a lot of money, and there is no guarantee that Diomande would be a success. He's still very young. He will need time to understand the coach's philosophy, you know, in terms of training, because he might not be used to this rigorous form of training either. So he needs to get accustomed to that, and then the tactics, and then the intensity and the physicality of the Premier League. There's a lot of factors that he'll need to, you know, consider before we can say, you know, this is the guy to take us forward. So I don't know. I think in terms of the style of play, I think Diomande is definitely someone we should look towards, but we might have to look elsewhere because that valuation is absolutely over the top. I think that's an inflated price there. I don't see Liverpool paying that kind of money for an untested 19-year-old, in my opinion. Sees a big pause. Yeah, I'm sorry. I did not. I should have read the comment before, but yeah, that was a big pause indeed. Wayne said we won't pay 130 million. For Desmonda. You mean Diomande? You know who I mean. Yes, I do know who you mean. I agree with you, Wayne. I don't see us spending that kind of money. It's 112 million pounds, but we paid 100 million for Verts, but Verts is more accomplished than Diomande, isn't he? So for me, yeah, I don't see us paying that kind of money. I think Leipzig will need to reduce that valuation if they want to sell, but they might want to keep him on board for another season, which sounds like it's not possible. I can see that happening, to be fair, because I don't see PSG wanting to pay that kind of price either. And we're the two strongest teams that are after Diamonde's signature. But if they're like 110 million, take it or leave it, I think we're going to leave it and we'll walk away and try and target someone else. That's the way I think it will be. So then what do we do? Um, this might not be a popular opinion, but maybe we go for stopgap signing like a Jarrod Bowen. Not the player that sets the world alight, but he's Premier League proven. Maybe we just sign him for like the next year or two, and then maybe next summer we try and sign Diomande, maybe at a bit more of a reasonable price. So that might be the way the club look at it. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, what happens going forward. Steve says, "What about Barcola? Is he becoming more and more realistic?" Don't worry, Steve. We'll be talking about Barcola very, very shortly. It's taken me 1 hour and 54 minutes to mention his name. So yeah, it's a bit of a record because I normally would have mentioned his name a lot more quicker. in that regards, but we'll speak about him very shortly. Wayne said we won't pay that 130, but Madrid are willing to pay 150. Listen, he could be the guy that they're referring to. Who knows? Who are you trying to sign at 150 million? You know, Haaland, I guess, would fit that bill. Elise would be another one, I would say. I want to say 150 for Diomande. That's wild, but yeah, you never know. You never know. Uh, Wayne says, I've got a feeling we get both. Oh, I hope you're right, Wayne. In terms of Barcola and Diomande, I'm all for it. That would be my two dream signings there, and I feel like we'll be sorted for next season if we were to get both. But I hope you're right in that scenario. And let's move on. Let's talk about the man, and that is Bradley Jean Magnon Esolisam Edo Bakula. I'm sure Ozan will be proud to hear that. I've tried to remember his full name there. So the current rumor is that there has been some movements in regards to Bakula. Liverpool and Arsenal are very keen on signing the PSG winger. Um, and apparently, there is a potential chance of him leaving PSG this summer. So for me, if we don't sign Yan Diomande, is Barcola the answer? Is he the alternative? For me, I would have to say no, because I see Barcola more as a left winger. Yes, he can play on the right wing and has done for PSG, but I feel like he is most effective on the left hand side. So for me, it has to be Barcola and another winger at least. So it has to be like a Yan Diomande. But if it's not Yan Diomande, who do we look towards? As I just mentioned, a short gap signing could be a Jarrod Bowen for like the next year or two, and then we sign a Diomande or sign someone else that we feel like is ready. Um, Luce is a player that I like, but he's not explosive on the wings like a Yan Diomande. And to be fair, there aren't many players like that in world football, so it'll be very tricky to find that kind of profile. But Luce is very, very technically good, technically gifted, um, effective on the wings. He's not quite like Elise. I'd say he's a less sort of pacier version of Elise because he's very technical on the ball. Uh, or from a Liverpool standpoint, like a Salah, where Salah, I'm talking about Salah for the last 2, 3 years, where he's not as electric on the ball, but he's more of a creative playmaker on the right wing. I think that's what Akaluche would bring. So if we had Barcola on one side and Akaluche, it wouldn't actually be a bad proposition because you've got one winger on the left hand side in Barcola that is more of a goal threat, and then you've got another right winger on the other side that is more of a creator for the team, and then you've got Florian Wirtz in between the lines there, trying to cause havoc, whether he's providing the final ball or he's trying to score some goals himself. It presents a good balance there. So that would be an alternative sign, but he wouldn't be the same profile as a Yan Diomande because he's not explosive like a Yan Diomande. He doesn't have that kind of pace. I'm not saying he's slow, but he's not as quick as Diomande. So it's going to be interesting. I think Diomande is our number one target. It'll just be intriguing to see, if we're going to get him. And in terms of Barcola, I think Barcola is a realistic target for us. It also depends in terms of what the club have planned. If Gakpo leaves, then I feel like Barcola would be the perfect replacement in terms of valuation, but also in terms of him being a starter and him bringing in something that Gakpo doesn't do, which is unpredictability on the wing. He's more explosive and more of a goal threat. I would say Barcola needs to improve his finishing a little bit more, even though he gets a lot of goals. But if he's able to refine his finishing with a bit more calmness in front of goal, then those numbers can double, in my opinion. That's the kind of capabilities he has. So he has the potential to be a proper goal scoring forward on the wings, if I'm being honest with you. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. So I think Barcola is certainly a target for us for this summer. When he says I'm not a Barcola fan, though, there's a lot of people that aren't, but I'm going to stick to my guns and say, yeah, I think Barcola is that guy, and I think he can definitely um, improve going forward. Uh, Steve said Aussie promised all the subscribers an 8-hour live stream if FSG somehow managed to sign Barcola. I didn't promise 8 hours. I did say I'll do a long show. So yeah, that can definitely be achieved. I've done 2 hours already today, and I'm still not over. I haven't even spoken about most of the rumors today. So yeah, I'll try and do what I can. But if it's a celebration show, then yes, I'll have to invite guests. I'll have to bring Double D on the show and get him to give his take, whilst I smoke on my shisha, because that would be my way of celebrating that signing, because that's the signing I've always wanted, what I've been wanting for the last year or two. So yeah, you never know. 8 hour stream, I can't promise that, but it will be a long show nonetheless. WD said, man said his full government. Yeah, Ozan tweeted me earlier and said, look, you got to remember the full government name. I'm like, why not? Let's try and do that today. So yeah, that's why I was able to present it. Uh, uh, Breaking promise isn't a good sign. Look, I never said 8 hours. That's the number that you guys have been presenting. But I did promise a long show. I will say that. Okay, let's move on to the next rumor, and that is Marco Palestra. Now, Inter are stepping up their pursuit of Marco Palestra as Dumfries closes in on a surprise move to Real Madrid. The Cagliari right back is valued at 50 million euros, which is about 40 million pounds. But there are several Premier League clubs, including Newcastle, that are keeping an eye on this situation. So my thoughts on that, in terms of the teams, Inter Milan pursuing Palestra makes a lot of sense. Of course, Dumfries leaving Inter Milan for Real Madrid, so there's a gap there, and I feel like in Serie A, Palestra is the next sort of big thing when it comes to right backs. So I feel like he would actually make a lot of sense of joining over to Inter Milan, and not to kind of ruin the tone of the show. I do see Palestra staying at Serie A, and I can see him joining in Inter Milan. What I find interesting about this report is that Newcastle are one of the teams that are keeping a close eye on the situation. But then you ask the question, why is that the case? Because they have Livramento in the ranks. So would they want to sell Livramento in order to get Palestra? Because for me, I would get Livramento. I think that would be my first choice when it comes to signing a right back for Liverpool. So this could have like a domino effect if um Cagliari was to join Newcastle, then that means Livramento would sell. But I don't think he would join Newcastle. I see him, if I'm being honest with you guys, I don't see him being a target for Liverpool. I don't think he'll join us. I think he might end up staying at Serie A, and I think he will end up joining Inter Milan. I think that makes the most logical sense in terms of his career move. So I think that's going to be the case. Reese, pick up Reese. He says, do you think we get Diomande? Ooh. I don't want to sound like I'm on the fence. I'm not sure. For some reason, I don't think we will. In fact, I'll present this as a prediction. I don't think he moves this summer. I think he stays at Red Bull Leipzig for one more year, and I think he'll make that move next season. That's what I'm predicting. In terms of if it's Liverpool or PSG, I don't know where he'll go next season, because it'll depend who we sign this summer. But for some reason, I think he might stay. I think Leipzig might mess him up a little bit in terms of pricing him away from getting a move in terms of the transfer fee. The transfer fee is very much inflated. So I think he might stay, which doesn't suit us, because then who do we go for? Puts a bit of a spanner in the works there. But I don't think they'll sell Diomande this summer. That's the kind of viewpoint I have with regards to Diomande. If he had a release clause, that's a different scenario. And that could be something that's presented, because I did hear rumors a few weeks ago that uh, Red Bull Leipzig want to offer him a new contract, and that contract might include a release clause going forward. So that could be what Red Bull Leipzig are wanting to do with Diomande, because that's exactly what it is supposed like, me not paying that release clause. So yeah, let's see. But that would be my prediction. Not the prediction I think any Liverpool fan wants to hear. But I'm trying to be as honest as possible. So the next one is Kenneth Eichhorn. Hopefully I pronounced his name properly there. So Liverpool are continuing to push hard behind the scenes for Kenneth Eichhorn. New talks have taken place in the last to 48 hours. The 16-year-old gem is open at this stage in terms of exploring different options. Um, if Liverpool were to make this signing, Liverpool will potentially loan him back to the Bundesliga, with Leverkusen being a possible loan destination. Dortmund are still trying to sign the player ahead of Liverpool, but only time will tell in terms of where he ends up moving. So for me, in terms of this player, I haven't seen much of him, so I might have to watch a few comps before I can say wholeheartedly, yes, we gotta get this guy through. But he's very highly rated in Germany. 16 years of age, has been earmarked as the next Tony Cruz. So that, of course, excites fans that you might get a player of that ilk joining your team. With him being 16, it would make sense for him to get another loan move. So if we were to sign him now, and I think the fee is around 20 million euros, which is about 15 million pounds. So if we were to sign him and then loan him out for 1 year at a club like Leverkusen, I think would be great because it allows him to continue his development. He'll play at a high level. So that would make a lot of sense there. And then we can see, what to do with him going forward. So for me, I kind of see this signing happening. I feel like there's something in the works that makes me feel like it's going to happen. So we've got a future star in the making in Kenneth Hutchinson. So hopefully, we do make that signing going forward. When you say Aussie, I heard today this election thing at Madrid, they come up with a list of players they want rid, and Rodrigo's name is on it. Have you heard anything? I haven't heard in regards of Rodrigo, um, because if you, I'm sure you guys will remember last year there was a lot of speculation that he'll leave, but he wanted to stay and fight for his place. So Rodrigo could be on the out in terms of him being moved on. But then where would he go? That would be the question I ask. Last year, Tottenham were linked with him, maybe Tottenham going for him again. PSG want to sign him, but that could be. Look, I just answered the question in terms of Diomande. If Diomande isn't available this summer, maybe PSG look towards a signing like a Rodrigo. If they were to sell Barcola, because then that would mean that Barcola leaves and then Rodrigo ends up replacing him in the squad. So that could be a realistic proposition there. But I don't know. I don't know where he would go. I don't rate him as highly a lot of fans do. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's elite, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see, what happens with him. But yeah, of course, if they're spending 150 million players, they need to try and, you know, s- uh, s- get some cash to balance the books as well. So yeah, let's see what happens. Aaron, big up Aaron says, would you prefer Ryan from Bournemouth over Diomande? Left for his same age and ridiculous. I like to look at Ryan. If I was to look as at an alternative target to Diomande, I think Ryan could be someone on the shortlist. But Ryan, in terms of his release clause, is about £100 million. I don't think the club want to spend that kind of money on one position this season. I might be wrong. I probably said that last year, and then we ended up signing two players worth 100 million each last summer. So I could be completely wrong. But I do like Rayan. In terms of profile, I think he would be a great signing. So yeah, one to kind of have in mind in terms of potential targets. South Asian Scouser has just presented a quote from Florentino Perez. On Tuesday, we will make an offer of more than 150 million euros for a player who plays in the Champions League. It will be the most expensive signing in the history of Real Madrid. The signing isn't Elise nor Haaland. It will be another who plays from midfield upwards. Is that Vitinha? 150 million for Vitinha sounds crazy. Or is it Rodri? Could be one of the two. Yamal, no, it's not Yamal. Uh, I'll keep saying it on here. Ryan at Bournemouth and Bozumana Torre from Hoffenheim are better fit for us. I think Ryan is a great fit. Torre, I have slight reservations. I don't think he's built for the Premier League. I feel like he looks a bit lightweight to me, so I feel like he'll struggle in terms of facing the physicality um, of the Premier League. So I don't think he would be the right fit. But Ryan, yes, he would be a great profile. Sarah Scott says, I'm hoping it's Maka or Gakpo, one of the two. I'll be happy with that. Okay, Jones, nah. Okay, Jones will probably go into Milan, I think. But yeah, if it's Maka, I think his I felt I read somewhere that his father denied that it's him. But father needs to calm down. It could be his son. So yeah, hopefully it's McAllister. So he becomes the only Scouser in the team. Madrid and Barca have bought off each other before. When was the last time they did that though? Was it Luis Figo? I don't think they do it a lot. So yeah, it's not as common as people would assume. I think that might have been the last time, to be fair. But let's see, it's going to be chaos. You said the bid was happening on Tuesday, so yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens on Tuesday. It's not Liverpool related, but we'll definitely talk about it in the show because I'm sure we'll have the football world um, on alert in terms of what that player will be. So yeah, it will be interesting nonetheless. Um, let's speak about one of our youth players in Joshua Abe. Now, the England youth international Josh Abe has turned down interest from a number of Premier League clubs in order to commit his future at Liverpool. Sources suggested that he was offered pro terms in excess of 50,000 per week from Premier League rivals before confirming his future at the club. So for me, this is very, very positive news. I know we spoke about Josh Abe, I think a couple of months ago, where he was visiting the Etihad Stadium, so people thought he might be destined to go over to Man City, and there were definitely other clubs that were trying to get Josh Abe, underneath us and think that they can just do the unethical approach and nick one of our players. Uh, but I'm pleased that this is the conclusion because there was uncertainty. I just felt like he was probably just weighing up his options, which is fine. Um, but of course, he could have done a bit more discreetly and not be at the stadiums physically, if that makes sense. I could just let his agents do the work, but unfortunately, his agent is actually Trent's older brother, um, which you know I felt hopefully this guy doesn't mess it up. 'Cause obviously, Trent's not exactly um, one of the favorite people when it comes to Liverpool now, does it? So yeah, so that was a bit of a factor, and for him to be offered 50K a week already at his age, 15 years of age, most people would have been swayed by that offer. But fair play to him, fair play to his family that probably sat down and spoke about the different options available and probably saw Liverpool as the right institution for Josh Abe because I truly believe that if he continues to develop the way he has shown in recent times, there is a pathway for him in the first team. And that is key there. If he wants to join a Man City, there is no guarantee there's a pathway, nor is there guarantee at Chelsea or any of those type of teams. So history will tell you that Liverpool do give opportunities to the young players. And under Iraola, I think he will do that as well. And now that he's been presented the number 40 shirt number, that shows me that he will be in and around the first team. I'm not saying he's going to be listed as one of two right wingers. I think he'll be training the first team squad, but also playing for the under 21s. I think he'll be promoted this year. So that's the way I'm looking at it. So for me, we're going to see Josh Abe maybe in World Cup games. We'll definitely see him in preseason. I'm quite positive of that. So if the coach thinks he's ready, he'll be given some game time. But of course, we got to be careful. We got to be patient when it comes to these amazing young talents. He's only 15. We've got to take our time and not rush him into the first team. Once he's ready, I'm sure he'll be given the platform to showcase his talent and make a name for himself going forward. So for me, this is positive news. I know there was already fans that were saying all sorts about Josh Abe, calling him all sorts of names, and I always felt like, look, we don't know the full picture. Let's wait and see. And I didn't really think too much of it in terms of him visiting Etihad Stadium and all that sort of stuff. I feel like that is what players do nowadays, so it's not really a crazy thing to highlight. It is the modern day. Players do think that they do get invited to visit stadiums here and there. So just got to take it with a bit of calmness and not feel hurt about a player doing something like that. Look, in the end, I think he's made the right decision. So credit to him and his family. And hopefully the future is bright at Liverpool because I do feel like he's a player that could really become a future star at Liverpool. He's got that kind of ability. So yeah, let's see what the future holds for the young player. Wayne says, yeah, Figo and PSG manager. Oh yes, Luis Enrique. He was the one that played for both teams, isn't it? So yeah. Can you imagine if that's the manager that one of them was referencing? Was it Enrique Riquelme that said it, that he has a world class manager in place? It can only be Enrique. I doubt it would be Pep Guardiola, but that would be bloody sensational as well if it was Pep Guardiola. So I just want to see what happens now. There's a lot of build up here. It's got to deliver. It's got to deliver. Um, South Asian Council, Aussie. I think we end up with Diomande and PSG. Get Elise. What you reckon? PSG getting Elise? I don't see that happening. I'd be very surprised if he goes over there. Not saying it's not a great club, of course it is, but that means they'll have to sell one of their front players. Because the front three is Kvaratskhelia, it's Ousmane Dembele, and it's Desiree Doué. Elise is not displacing any of those players. As great as Elise is, you know, why would one of them make space for him to get into the team? None of them would want to drop to the bench. Barcola plays a lot of games, but he's not a first team star. So I don't think they'll get I don't think PSG will get Elise unless one of them is sold, which I'll be very surprised about. If Liverpool were to get one of them, I think Kvaratskhelia or Doué would be amazing for us. But no, I don't think that's realistic. Um, so no, I don't think Elise goes to PSG. In terms of asking Diomande, I hope you're right. I really do. That would be great for me. South Asian guy says Josh Abe with Irala's coaching. Wow, that is definitely an exciting prospect, especially if Josh Abe is involved in preseason. We might see Josh Abe not playing a lot of games. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter or anything of that nature, but we might see him on the bench or in and around the team during cup competitions. So we'll probably see him in the first team to some extent, but more so in the under 21s. That's the way I would look at it, to be fair. Wayne says PSG have kept an eye on Akaluche as backup as they don't want to overpay. So Bakal and Diomande both could end up at AXA. Yeah, it's not unrealistic. It is a possibility we can get both. Um, it just sounds a bit far fetched, for us to spend that kind of money on two wingers. But I think those are the right profiles. Barcola and Diomande, I think they would be fantastic for us. Um, and you are right about Akaluche. PSG, I've been watching him for about a year or two, probably the same time as us. We were strongly linked to him last year, but we just didn't want to make the move. Maybe we didn't have the finances, or maybe we thought, let's just see how he does next season. We can take it from there. Um, so I think he's a potential target for Liverpool as well if we can't get Diomande for the right wing. But yeah, let's see what happens going forward. South Asian guy said Josh Abe has one hell of a shot on him. By the way, was watching some of the clips. He shoots the ball really clean, very stylish, like finishing technique. Yeah, no backlift in his shooting there. He hits it with real power and proper levers those shots. So yeah, he's got a great shooting technique. So yeah, it's very exciting to what he will bring to the table for us. So, yeah, great talent for Liverpool in the future. South Asian guy says Barcola and Ramos get sold. I think. I can see Ramos leaving. I can see Barcola leaving as well. Um, but they still have. I think if they were to sell the two, I think they'll just bring one in. I think they've got. Is it the young attacker they have? What's his name? Is it Maya Lulu or something like that? I don't want to make up names now. Um, what's his name? Mayulu. Sorry. So yes, it was close enough. So Seni Mayulu. And I think they had another player as well. So they've got two young wingers in their team that can kind of take that role. So I think they'll probably sign one accomplished attacker, and that will be their summer signings there. Kang In is one. Yes, he's one as well. There's another one as well. Mbaye, that's it. I think it was Mbaye. So they've got quite a few players within the ranks, so they don't need to um, sign so many, if that makes sense. Of course, I feel like they'll need a fourth attacker in rotation with the front three if they do end up sending Barcola. But they can have like a Diomande or Akaluche, and then they'll have the other players that we've just mentioned, Mbaye, Mayulu, and Gangin to be the backup for those players as well. So yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. So I feel like there's going to be a domino effect as one of those players moves over. We're going to see players moving left, right, and center across Europe. Both A will be good under Yola. I agree. Bowen and Nusa for me. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. They are not gonna sell Barcola if Diomande is joining us, in my opinion. Depends if we get Diomande. So that's the thing. I would love for it to be both, but I kind of do agree with you. You know, if we get Diomande, I don't think they'll sell us Barcola because we've taken one of their prime targets as well. So yeah, that could be a real situation there. Sunny, big up Sunny says I'm a bit unsure about Irola. There seems to be a lot of fans that are unsure of him, but I just feel like, look, let's be patient as fans. Doesn't matter who the manager was going to be. We always have to be patient with who we appoint as the new head coach. Uh, but what I will say is, you know, I think his football philosophy is exactly what we will resonate with as fans. You know, if you were an admirer and a supporter of Jurgen Klopp's heavy metal football, we're going to see that type of brand of football once again. So that's something to look forward to, I would say, in regards to that. Also, do you think Stock will join Fulham Oz? I don't think he will. I think he's also linked with the AC Milan job. I can see him moving over to Italy. So I think that might be more suited for him. I don't think he'll join Fulham. I think Fulham are linked with the likes of Thomas Frank and the Ipswich managers. But I think Thomas Frank might be the one that they will end up getting, to be fair. That would be my prediction on that. Both we will win the Prem or Champions League next season. I hope so. That would be amazing if we do. South Asian Scout says you're right about Domino's Aussie. Could be as early as Tuesday with Madrid doing a man this year. Once we know who that 150 million player is, we can kind of picture, you know, what's going to happen going forward. But yeah, it's going to be an absolute madness nonetheless. So yeah, Perez and Enrique Raquelme trying to spice up the transfer market already. So yeah, let's see what happens going forward. Cristiano Big Story said Max Liverpool will pay for Diomande over 100 million. I think the max they'll pay is 80. I don't see us paying more than that. And that's me thinking Liverpool have really pushed out to make that bid. I don't think it'll be more than that. The number I would say was 70, but I think if Leipzig was showing some indication that they'll settle for 75 or 80, I think Liverpool will then push it. But I don't think it'll be further than 80 million. I don't see that happening because they want 130 million euros, which in pounds is 112. I don't see us paying 112 million for Diamond. I think that's way too much. Sunny said, but do we have the current players that can thrive under the style of play of Irola? We need legs that can run and press. I think there's a lot of players that can thrive under this style of play because I feel like the players that we have in the squad are more suited for that type of football. The brand of football we played last year, there's a reason why we weren't successful. There's a reason why we didn't, click as a team because it's very negative. It didn't really fit the style of play, or it didn't complement the skill sets that the players have. But having said that, I do think we need to make some additional signings this summer in order for us to really see the best of Irola ball. You know, we need to sign a number 6. We need 2 wingers at least. I might even say 3 wingers if I'm being greedy here. Um, I think we need a right back. We need another centre back. If one of the goalkeepers goes, we need to sign another goalkeeper. So there's a lot of areas that need to be addressed. For me, the number 6 and the 2 wing positions need to be addressed. And I'll probably say right back because I think those 4 positions are very, very important. So yeah, once we can get those type of players over the line, there'll be a bit more of a clear idea into where the club is heading. But currently, we do have the squad. We do have the players that can thrive under this ball, under this sort of style of play. But we have no wingers right now. We've got Rio on one left, on one hand side on the left wing. We have no right wingers. We've got Chiesa, but he's leaving as well. So we've got no right wingers. Rio and Frimpong, I guess, the only direct players that can play on the wings. But other than that, we don't have depth. So no, we do need to address the squad before we can even think about what we can win and what we can do under this new coach. We need to sign some players, in my opinion. Wayne says, I think the £150 million player could be Haaland or Florian Wirtz. It could be Florian Wirtz. That could be a shout. As his agent, I hope that's not true. Because no one's sent me any memos about that. So yeah, I wouldn't co-sign that if that was the case. But also Irola said that he wants to have the preseason to watch the players and decide what to do. Do you think we wait to sign players after that? Potentially, but I still feel like we'll be doing the groundwork in terms of the players we want to sign. Um, I think there'll be some areas where we don't have the players in the ranks to add. So, for example, we don't have a number six. We don't have a number six that's come out from a loan spell or anything like that. We need to sign a proper number six. So that's something that I feel like will be in the works right now. Um, Javier is an interesting one because he could be regarded as a backup right winger, and then we just sign one winger to play on the right hand side, or he becomes a backup number 10 for Florian Wirtz. Um, so therefore, that sell for Jones can happen if that makes sense. Because on paper, I'm always viewing Jones as a backup for Wirtz in that scenario, and if Gakpo stays, Rio's there, then maybe we don't need to address the left wing position. Um, the strikers, I think the likes of Will Wright, they'll be given a chance to make an impression. But even so, I would regard Will Wright as a third choice striker. At most, I wouldn't have him higher in the ranks than that. So yeah, I think he will assess it, but I do feel like he will look at areas that we don't have in terms of players on the books and try and find the right players to come through the door at Anfield. Touchline Chaos, big up your faces, big up Aussie in chat, big up Touchline, hope you're well. Um, Savage Council, Perez is not Elise or Haaland, but then again, he could be lying. Yeah, you don't know what he's talking about, isn't it? So you never know. Um, uh, that's what I'm saying. You're not gonna tell who you're going for. Touchline says no right wing at all. Nah, we'll get a right wing. I'm sure we will. We have to. There's no way we can go to see them not sign a right winger. I think Liverpool need two defensive signings, Irola system and World Cup season, but will they spend on a good centre back after Jacquet? That's a that's going to be the big question of the summer. For me, my choice is Schlotterbeck. I think he fits the bill. But I wouldn't mind us signing a Senesi on a free transfer because I feel like he would be perfect in terms of the Irola system. He knows what it takes to be successful and he knows what tactics will be deployed under the new coach. So that's a smooth transition for a player to come in and implement the game that the coach wants because he doesn't need to educate the player in that regards. So that's a free transfer. So Konaté's gone on a free. We sign another defender on a free transfer who I would say is better on the ball, more experience, and can provide, you know, cover for the likes of Jackie and Leone. Because let's say Jackie and Leone are amazing next season, or they are really pushing to start in the team. Having Senesi on the bench, it would still be a very valid option. So for me, I think that would be the smart signing to do. If it's not possible, because I'm not sure if he has agreed or he signed the contract with Tottenham, then we have to look elsewhere. But my first choice would be Schlotterbeck. That's the guy I want to see at Liverpool. If not, Senesi. If we're trying to save money here as well, let's go for Senesi. I think that makes the most sense, to be honest with you. Irola wants Salah in a year contract. No way. Is that true? I I would love for Salah to do a U-turn. I just don't see that happening, unfortunately. I don't see it happening. Whereas Ozzy, if it is Bert's 10-hour therapy stream, yeah, we might have to do that. We might have to do that. But I'm gonna have to need you guys to do the comments because I might be lost for words. So yeah, I think I'll need the therapy more than you guys if I'm being honest with you. Stanley says also, do you believe Irola starts Rio more next season because he likes fast, pacey wingers rather than Gakpo who just cuts inside a lot? I think he will. I'm not saying Rio will start week in, week out, but Rio will be more heavily involved in comparison to what Slot showed us last season. So yes, I do believe that he will be more heavily involved under Irola. But also, if Florentino Perez said it wasn't a Prem player, bloody then who is it then? Did he say it was a midfielder? Then I think it's Batinha. I think that's the guy he's going for. If he didn't state that, who could it be? I don't know. Elise would make more sense, but it doesn't sound like it's Elise, so I don't know. Only time will tell. Uh, I really don't think Diomande is all that Oz. I'm scared that the club has begun operating like Manu, only looking at hype or factor, not the actual quality. You have to watch Diomande. I think Diomande has a very, very, very high ceiling. I think he's a fantastic young prospect. And unfortunately, the market is just a bit weird. There's not a lot of great right wingers out there, so we have to just see what's out there and then try and get the best we can. So I think Diomande is the top of the bill in that regards. Um, we're not just going for big trendy names, I would say. I feel like we're trying to find the right profile, and I think Diomande does fit that bill. But also it will be one of the PSG players. Yeah, I think it's Vitinha. If I was to make a guess, because I feel like Vitinha is one of the most important players in that PSG team. So I think it could be Vitinha. Iraola was my choice after Klopp left. Big up yourself. That's a good shout there. My choice was Alonso after Klopp. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, I am happy that Iraola is at the club now because I feel like he's the perfect fit for us. Go get both. Yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah, I don't think he could get anyone though. If it is Verts to Madrid for 150 million pounds, that's actually a tempting deal. I personally wouldn't be entirely heartbroken. I'll be real. 150 million is more than a full return on investment. Okay. If that was the case where it was 150 million euros, so in pounds, that's 140 million pounds for Verts. Yeah, I would probably accept it as well. And look, Verts is something I really, really rate. But I feel like that money could be used very wisely for us as well. Um, and if Verts was to leave, we can just push Szoboszlai as the number 10, even though fans didn't like it when we won the league that he was a number 10. I feel like he did well. I just feel like he was a bit gun shy in moments, but I feel like he's improved and he's looked a little bit more confident with his long shot, especially from free kicks and from distance in open play. So then in that way, you can just address other positions and you can really go for, and we can splash the cash on an Elise. That would be the first thing I would do if Verts goes. Okay, fine. I'm distraught because that's one of my favorite players at the minute, and I'm his agent. If you watch the show, everyone refers to Verts as my client because I speak so highly of him. But if it's to get Elise, I'll take it, which is very shameless of me to say, but I'll take it because it's for the best of the team, and it's for the good of the team, I should say. So yeah, I would take that, which will surprise many people here, but I would take that if that's the case. Uh, Cristiano says someone will definitely ask over 300k and starting role to sign a new contract. He was not happy with right back shifts. Yeah, I'm hoping Iraola doesn't follow suit and puts him at right back because that should not be an option going forward. We should go get Elise. If it is 150 million pound for Verts, let's say that is the player, then yeah, let's spend it on Elise. Why not? Also, I watch a lot of Leipzig games, and I still think the money is not all that. That's fair. That's fair. Whenever I've seen him play, I think he's very positive in terms of how he plays. I think he's electric on the ball. I feel like he'll bring a lot of pace on the wings. But I think defensively, he's got a good work ethic. He works hard for the team. So he's a quite a bit of a team player. So I do like those traits in him. But hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I would take Liao. Who's that? Liu? Oh, Barcola, but his off the ball is lazy. Liao. Okay. That's the concern with Liao. If you look at stats, his off the ball contribution is barely barely a percentage, if I'm being honest with you. So yeah, I hear you. But yeah, Liao for me, from an attacking point of view, he fits the bill. I would take Liao. You know, I think he'd cost less than Barcola, but he's already accomplished at this stage of his career. I would take Liao, but I don't think he's everyone's cup of tea. Boss extremely clumsy on the ball. Maybe I don't think he is. I just think because he's so eccentric, he is going to lose the ball from time to time. Touchdown Chaos says Sade is better than Marcola. We've actually been linked to Sade. I wouldn't mind Sade at Liverpool, although I wouldn't view him as a starter. I think if Sade was to join, I think Rio ends up becoming a starter. And I know that's probably a lot of pressure on a 17-year-old. But I don't think Sade is that much better. He had a great purple patch last season in the first half, but second half of the season, Sade did go down in terms of contribution. So for me, I like him, but I don't think he's a huge upgrade on Gakpo even. But he's more of a goal threat, so I would guess in that regards he would be a better option. Bosse would take Sade. Yeah, I don't mind Sade, but I would probably give Rio more of an opportunity ahead of Sade. But that's what I would do. South Indian Scout says, you're right. If we lose Verts, it can only be for Olise, nothing less. Yeah, because then you're replacing Salah with the best right wing available for me, which is Elise. And then in terms of Verts as well as a number 10, we can just give Szoboszlai that role going forward, and then we sign proper midfielder, um, you know, in the double pivot. So that could be a Wharton and Gravenberg double pivot. It could be a many, whoever we're looking towards, try and sign that type of profile. So yeah, that's what I would do in that scenario. Even though I've been one of the content creators, I believe, unless someone can tell me else, into someone else, but I've been very supportive of Bert's, and I truly believe he will come into full flow for Liverpool next season. So let's wait and see what the future holds for Florian Wirtz. He's a better finisher than Barcola, but Liao is lazy off the ball. Yeah, he does a trap back. I would say that. Liao and Sade would be my left wing, and right wing Bowen and Elise. What about Rio? You've forgotten Rio. So is Rio not in the mix there? None of those track back. I really don't want any of Barcola, Diomande, or Liao. But Nusa's not known for tracking back either. So you got to choose wisely in terms of who you'd go for. Charlotte actually triggers me. In what way? Christian says, Barcola is good for 60, 70 million, but he will ask for 250, 300K. Then every contract renewal will become pricey, especially if 19-year-old Diomande again. Yeah, that's something Liverpool got to be smart with in terms of negotiating and not paying over the odds when it comes to weekly salary or uh, you know bonuses and incentives. So yeah, that's how I look at it. Rio did start the Aussie. The left wing we are signing will be the backup, won't he? Or have I misunderstood everything? Um, it depends which left winger you're referring to. If it's Barcola, for me, Barcola starts. And Rio is the on paper backup. I don't want to call him backup, but he'll be in rotation with Barcola. If it's Nusa, I think Nusa will start ahead of Rio, and then depending on how impactful both players are, whoever trains better or performs better will be the first choice. So that will be more of a like for like battle. Uh, if it was Sade, I would probably personally go for Rio ahead of Sade. Um, But yeah, let's see. Look, it's going to be interesting to know who we go for in the 11. If it's Gakpo, let's say we don't sign left wing. If Gakpo stays, then for me, Rio starts week in, week out. I know it's 17, but for me, there's no way Gakpo starts ahead of Rio. So that's the way I would look at it. Um, more players are better for us moving forward. I think Rio will get more games under Iraola, but still needs to be managed properly. I agree. He does need to be managed properly. So that's why I wouldn't play him week in, week out. But if Gakpo's still there, then I would in that scenario. Uh, yeah, Rio will be playing more cup comps and what's. But if you've got two players for the left wing, two for the right, I think his minutes will be limited. So I would rather us sign one left winger and then two right wingers. That's the way I would look at it. So three new attackers come through. This is not a dig Oz, but what is it with Barcola that triggers you Oz? I just can't see it. It's his raw pace. I don't feel like there's a lot of wingers out there that has his type of um, raw speed on the break, which is very important. Of course, the question will be, how is he against low blocks? Because it's more about build up play rather than him just getting past players. So what I like about Barcola is his unpredictability in terms of his positioning. He gets to great goal scoring positions. Although I will say he needs to improve on his finishing ability in order to increase the tally. But he's a constant threat. He's direct. Um, he will cause any right back or any defenders um, nightmares or chaos in those moments there. So for me, he's a profile that we don't have. There's no one in our team that can do what he does. Um, and there's not a lot of options in world football that I like Barcola as well. So for me, Barcola still has some refinements, in his game that need to be implemented. But I still believe that he is a player that can hit another level if he was to join Liverpool and be coached by an Iraola, who is very much a forward-thinking coach. So that would be my viewpoint. But if we don't game, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But I do feel like we should sign at least one left winger. But if it's Gakpo, then for me, Rio starts week in, week out. If Rio will get minutes, then we don't need Sade, but still need a left winger that is quality. It depends on Gakpo for me. If Gakpo stays, then for me, Rio becomes the left winger on a week in, week out basis. And then Gakpo covers left wing and the striker role. But I would also say if we were to get two right wingers, then one can be the starter and one could be a multifunctional winger where you can play on the left, leg on the right, or can play up top. So that's the kind of profile that I would look towards going forward. Sismakali says starting a 17-year week in week out is not always great. Possible injury concerns and a loss of confidence if he doesn't perform. You are right. I'm just getting a bit giddy here because I just don't want to see Gakpo as a starter. If he stays, I'm hoping that he's labeled as a striker, as a backup striker, and we still sign a left winger. That's why I truly believe we have to sign a left winger. It's a minimum. Uh, that way you can manage Rio's games a bit more. He doesn't have to start week in, week out, but he can get more involved in upcoming games. So that's the way I would manage it. But yes, you are right. I'm just getting a little bit giddy because I don't want to see Gakpo start for Liverpool week in, week out. I'd rather give a 17-year-old chance to do that instead. I don't think FSG will sign another high wage left winger until Gakpo sell, but who will sign him with 250k? Florentino Perez, come on, do your thing, place that bid. 150 million, he's all yours. So yeah, that would be the type of club that I'd ship him over to. He's been linked with Atletico Madrid in the past. Bayern Munich are in pursuit of a left winger. They want to add another player to the ranks. So that could be a possible destination. So yeah, those are the only ones, to be fair. But yes, if not, then we'll have to do some serious thinking in terms of what we do with Gakpo. Do we need a left winger though? We still have Rio and Gakpo. We'll sign two right wingers, one midfielder, one centre back, and one right back instead. So for me, bro, I'm just thinking a bit ahead. So I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. I just want us to sell Gakpo. I'm not happy with Gakpo in the team. So that's the reason why I'm presenting all these names. If it is Rio and Gakpo, then you're probably right. We won't sign another left winger. And in that scenario, I'd rather sign two right wingers, but one of the right wingers has to be able to play as a striker because then it gives us cover for that front row, which I think is very important, especially with Isak's a history record, and we don't have Ekatike until next year potentially. We need another option for that striker role. So I think that would make the most sense. Barcola can stretch defenses like crazy. He's a good dribbler. He's so fast. If he was a good finisher, he'd be considered top five. Yeah, so that's the only thing that's missing in this game. He's not consistent in his finishing. He can finish, but he's not consistent. So that's something he needs to improve upon. And if you can get that right, yeah, we've got an amazing player in our hands if we were to sign Barcola. I think Rio can do what Barcola does, and Rio can finish. Barcola, not a good finisher. I'll disagree with that. I think Rio has good technique, uh, but Barcola creates more chances in games. Like he'll have more shots on goal, whereas Rio will not have as many, in my opinion. And Rio tends to cut in and shoot from distance, whereas Barcola is getting further up the pitch and is in one-on-one situations. So that's where he needs to improve going forward. Wayne says, Ozzy, I get what you're saying about Barcola, but it's his end product. PSG fans say he's frustrating because of it, and we've seen it you in the Champions League final. You are right. Uh, but because he has all the other skill sets, I feel like finishing, he can finish, he's just not consistent. That's the thing. So if we can refine that with more training or more, I don't know, psychological focus, because it might just be a mental thing as well when he's in front of goal. Maybe he's panicking or he's not as ice cold in front of goal. So that's something that can be deployed. But that can also come with time and experience as well. So that's something that can be worked on in the training ground. The other stuff, raw pace, you can't develop raw pace. You're given. It's natural, isn't it? It's God given, right? So that's something you can't teach. So the finishing element you can. You can refine that, you can improve on that, it can be worked upon. So that's why I feel like he's someone that we can get on board and try and improve him in order to achieve that next level, which I think he can do, to be fair. To be honest, it's hard talking about transfer when we don't know if Elliot will be back. I think in terms of Elliot, it will depend on how Irola sees him fit in terms of the system that he wants to deploy. So with Irola, maybe he'll play as a 10 or as a backup right winger. But as a right winger, I don't feel like he has the pace to cause havoc on that side. I feel like we need pace on the wings now. So I can see him being more of a backup for the number 10 role, but the club might want to cash in instead, rather than have Elliot in the ranks. But let's see. Uh, Kumas impresses me as well. I think if Kumas gets another long spell, that would be great for his development. Would give a chance to a squad before making all the signings. I think a lot of fans only care. Excuse me. Sorry, China's kicked in there. I think a lot of fans only care about fancy names out there. Like we still have Elliot, Kumas, Dance in attack to develop. Well, in terms of Elliot, it's a bit uncertain in terms of what the future holds for him. He's been linked to Leeds United quite recently, so that might be a possible destination. Apparently, um, he's not against the move. I think he wouldn't mind moving over there, which is interesting. Um, Kumas, I don't know if Kumas is quite ready for the first team. Dan's is always injured, so that's my concern in terms of availability. I think if Dan is able to stay fit, I think a loan move next season makes the most sense for him. He needs further development. He won't get the minutes under this new coach or at Liverpool, so I feel like it would be best for him to get a loan spell, whether it's at a Premier League team or Championship team. I think that will make the most sense going forward. Let's see, McCully says, does Irola play with attacking players interchanging positions like Bayern or PSG? In that case, having versatile wingers is key. Um, he does, but it's more so the wingers switching flanks. So if Semenyo's on the right, he'll switch over with Clivert, and then he goes over to the left. If that makes sense. So yeah, they do interchange positions. Um, that's why I feel like Diomande would be a great fit because Diomande is not just typically a right winger. He plays on the left wing for Ivory Coast. He played left wing today against France, so that would make more sense in that regards. Rio, we've seen it with him. He can play on both wings. Barcola can play on both wings. So there's a reason why we're linked to Barcola and Diomande, two wingers that can play on both flanks and they can interchange if needed. So I feel like that's what makes most sense. So that's why we're linked to those two names there. With A. Morrison right as well, deserves to be given a pathway. They'll be given a pathway, but they won't be given a golden ticket, if that makes sense. They have to earn the right to be in the mix. But they'll be given a chance to showcase their talent in pre-season. And then, I think with Abe, for example, I think he'll be in and out. I think he'll train with the first team squad, maybe play a couple games in terms of Carabao Cup competition. But I think he'll predominantly play in under 21s, which is still an upgrade from what he's been doing the last year or two. So I think that will help in terms of further his development, and then we'll get him involved a lot more. In terms of Morrison, he signed a new contract, but I think he'll be uh, presented as a loan option for next season. And then right as well, I think he'll be in the fringes of the squad when needed. So Gakpo and bringing Julian Alvarez, says Burton Jav. Julian Alvarez will be fantastic, but I think he's being pursued by is it Barcelona and PSG. I think he'll end up signing with one of those clubs. Cristiano says Diomande and Barcola solves many problems. Both can play either wing, but I think only one possible. PSG will only sell Diomande or a very good player. That's the thing. If we get, let's say we get Diomande, um, they want to sell Barcola to us, or we could pull a cheeky one where we get Barcola first, and then later in the window we get Diomande. We kind of present a bit of a bluff there, but hey, let's see. Treat them like Newcastle. That's the way we would probably, they thought, they were going to get TK. We got TK, and then we got their star strikers. Or maybe we can pull one of those moves this summer. Who knows? Touchline says, whoever we get, I pray we win a major in the next few years. I hope so too. I think we will, if I was to make a broad prediction there. Unrelated, but do you think more teams are going to play like Arsenal because of their success, compact mid to low block and time wasting? That would be the end of football. It's a great question. If I'm being honest with you, I think a lot of teams will deploy that style of play. I think Arsenal will continue to play that forward because that's got them the Premier League trophy, hasn't it? So, unfortunately, yes, but I don't think Liverpool will be one of them. I think Liverpool will provide a different outlook, a different style of play, and that's what should hopefully separate us from the rest. So, yeah, unfortunately, I do still feel like the English game is going towards that, old school way of playing, physical football, long balls, focus more on set pieces. Uh, but Liverpool hopefully won't, follow suit. We're not going to follow the crowd. We're going to do our own thing. So hopefully that's the case. It is in a stock game on now. Us no time to sleep. I know, I know. Why won't Dan's play for us if he's fit? Us Dan's picked up so many injuries. I think he might just about be fit now. But there was a period of time where Ekitike, of course, got injured, and we didn't really have a backup for Isak. Will Wright ended up being the player on the bench on quite a few occasions, but he never got game time either. Maybe Slot didn't think he was ready. So Dan just hasn't been fit, and it's not a question about his ability because I think he's very talented, but he's just not fit, unfortunately. So if he is fit, I feel like because he's had such a unlucky season where he's picked up back-to-back injuries last season, he needs to find his rhythm again. So I feel like a loan spell will help him, develop further, and I feel like he'll be refined after that loan spell when he returns to Liverpool next year, if that is the vision. So that's the way I would look at it. To be fair, fantastic. Yeah, he is a fantastic talent. I can't deny that. I think Dan's time is done. He's got loads of injuries. Yeah, he's picked up a lot of injuries, unfortunately. But hopefully, he can get him over to another club on loan, and maybe he's able to revive his potential once again. Bastian as well as yeah, I would probably cash in on Bastian. I think he's a lost cause now. So yeah, I think it's done for him. Football is over. Haram ball can't win. Yeah, I know Haram ball is not the one, is it? Wayne says I think it was Slot's plan for next season if he was still here to play like Arsenal because of the way he was talking about them in the last interview. Yeah, thank God he's gone. And Neoni the Oz. Personally, I would keep Neoni. I think there is a pathway of him getting some game time next season. I think Slot maybe didn't think he was ready or didn't favour the midfielder. I think under Irola he will get some game time. I think he'll get some opportunities in the league as well as the club competition. So I would keep Neoni for next season. Bunster, he took us back 5 years. Yeah, maybe even longer to be honest with you. Um, New style, more speed Liverpool. Yeah, that's why I want to see more progressive play under this new coach. So yeah, looking forward to that. And the final rumor of today is regarding Patrick Farkas. Now, apparently, this source is suggesting that he's in advanced talk to join Liverpool. He left the club 4 years ago. So he would become the fifth Hungarian on Liverpool's book alongside his brother Eric. Eric, I believe, is one of the young prospects at the minute we have in our ranks. So my thoughts on this, I don't know too much about Patrick Farkas. Maybe Bo will know a bit more about him as he follows the youth football quite a bit. Um, I don't know if there's any truth to it. I don't really know what to make of this. Is he coming in to be a first team player? You know, he's 19 years of age, so he's a bit more on the established side. Who knows at this? I'm not quite sure. But we'll wait and see if there's any truth to this rumor, and then we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. And that is it for today, guys. Let me just read the final comments. Um, Bo says you're so cold, Oz. Bash is over. Show some heart. Look, I am a little bit cold. I can't lie, but he's not kicked a ball for years. So for me, that's a concern there. That when are we going to see him fit again? I always see him in, in the training pictures and all that sort of stuff, but he hasn't kicked a ball for a good 2, 3 years now. So for me, he had a great loan spell at Las Palmas. I feel like he's more suited for La Liga, so a return to Spain makes the most sense. And I feel like it'll allow him to, further his career. At Liverpool, I just don't feel like it's going to happen. But that's just my take there. Arteta couldn't even beat Slot. That's true. Farkas is a centre midfielder coming to under 21. So the plan is for him to come to under 21. Okay, let's see. Let's see what happens. Ways to pick up Ozzy in chat. Signed to get his brother signed a new contract. Oh, okay. The old trick where you get one brother on board and hopefully the other follow suits. Let's see if that works. You would be like Slot as a coach. Oh, so cold. No, I'm not that cold. I feel like I would be a bit more warmer when it comes to the young players. Um, but there'll be the odd one where I'm thinking, you're a lost cause, you need to get out of it. But yeah, maybe I'm being a bit harsh there. Arteta is dusty. Yes, he is. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning. Almost 3 hours today. The show was definitely longer than planned. I was not planning on doing such a long show, but appreciate your engagement and appreciate you sending the comments. Let's give as many shout outs as possible for today. Let's go from the top. So shout to Bo, shout to Ozan, shout to Daz, shout to Wayne, shout to Delulu Steve, shout to Double D, shout to South Asian Scouser. Who else do we have? Shout out to Blizzard for Wrestler. Shout out to Sean Mohammed. There were quite a few new names I think I saw today as well. Shout out to AR. Shout out to Derek. Who else do we have? Shout out to Ahmed. Shout out to Bonkers. Shout out to Ray. Shout out to Sesi Mikali. I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm gonna have to learn how to speak now. Shout out to NFC Monster. Shout out to Reese. Shout out to Aaron. Shout out to Christiana. Shout out to Sunny. Shout out to Touchline Chaos. So yeah, I think that's everyone. Apologies if I missed you, but yeah, big up to everyone. Thank you for your countless amounts of comments. I really, really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button. We'll be doing a lot more shows during the off season, more transfer related shows, more breakdowns in terms of tactics, uh, more analysis in terms of player profile, players that could come in that I feel like could be, right fit. So today we did a show on potential centre backs coming through. So a lot of these type of shows will be taking place. Plus more transfer talk shows and yeah, lots of content coming your way. So please make sure to hit the subscribe button and also hit that notification bell, because there will be occasions where there's breaking news and I do an impromptu show. So you'll be well informed in terms of when a show begins. So hit that notification bell so you know exactly what time I will go live. Um, but yeah, that is it. So I see a few more comments. Let me quickly read them out and then we will close the show. Boss, big up Chat and Oz. Don't have to tell me, mate. Uh, Touchline Chaos, big up and take care. Big up yourself, Touchline Chaos. We're getting there. Oz. It tells the long streams we are. Remember when we had a fight about Lucky Oz? I remember that was funny. Um, but I'm sure Lucky will get an opportunity in preseason. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. Is it true, Ozzy? Someone on the stream told me you really said his full name. Yeah, I said the full name as promised. So yeah, definitely did that. I was out having dinner. Yeah, so I had to do it. I had to do it. So yeah. Bro, my time zone is 6 hours behind you, man. Yeah, I know you're across the world, but look, you know, you can go back on the show as soon as they see, you know, Bradley Bartholo's image on the screen. That's when the topic was discussed. So yeah, you can back check and see, you know, how I pronounced his full government name. So yeah, it had to be done as I promised you earlier on Twitter today. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe. I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.